Do we have the presentation? I'm still waiting for it to come to my phone. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll start with introductions and hope that the logistics work as we're going through. Good evening. Welcome to CB2's Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting for March 28th. We have a very full agenda tonight. So first I'm going to have the committee introduce themselves, and then I'll take everyone through the ground rules for this evening. Oh, and I'm Janine Kiley, Chair of the Traffic and Transportation Committee.
Janet Liff, I'm Vice Chair and a full board member.
Daniel Miller, Public Member. Ben Listman, Committee Member.
Rocio Sands, Board Member.
Okay, great, thanks.
Shirley Secunda, a member of Community Board 2 and this committee.
Susan Gammy, full board member.
Amy Brenna, full board member.
Lois Rakoff, full board member, a member of this committee.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. And we have Eddie Siegel in the audience. I'm not sure if any other community board members are in the audience. So we have 4 agenda items tonight. And the first one is for an open street on Clarkson between 7th Avenue and Hudson. We're targeting about 30 minutes for that. And then we have just a quick public hearing on the open streets that are presented to CB2. And then we will we'll move on to the redesign of Lafayette 4th Avenue. And then finally, the bid will present their plans for 7th Avenue South. Can I just have a show of hands? How many people are here for the Lafayette 4th Avenue? Pretty much everyone. Okay, fantastic. So the first 2 agenda items may go quickly. Do you have the ability to share your screen yet? Okay, I'm going to bring, actually, Amy, can you bring the microphone over? Okay, and just, highlight, oops, oh, you've got one, fantastic.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Kyle Gorman. I'm here from the City's Department of Transportation. Like was just mentioned, our first agenda item tonight is about a project that DOT is working with Open Plans and Project for Public Spaces on Clarkson Street between Hudson and Varick. I know we have a stacked agenda, so we'll be very quick. But tonight's presentation, we'll just go through some of the project background elements, what's being proposed, and some of the next steps with implementation. And I'm just waiting for the deck to be shared. I would sing and dance, but I didn't prepare. Thank you for laughing. Yeah. All right, so we're talking about the Clarkson Open Streets, which is just a few blocks away from here on the west side. Clarkson between Hudson and Varick has been an open street for the last few years. Sabina from Open Plans has done a lot of the foundational outreach work to get all the local stakeholders, including the school, on board with the operations and management of this open street. Essentially, it's designed to provide outdoor recreation space for the school. There's 3 schools that are actually co-located in that building, so there's quite a lot of students in a very old school building that's having some renovations right now. So the school, working with Open Plans, applied to the Open Streets program just a few years ago, and DOT approved the Open Street to run Monday through Friday during the school year from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Essentially, they close the street to traffic, and when the street is closed to traffic, the kids can play in the street, they can have outdoor learning, outdoor lunch, really anything that the school might need for outdoor possibilities with students between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. One thing that's baked into the Open Streets program, which is now a permanent program here in New York City, is that DOT is actually required by law to consider certain open streets that are deemed successful for certain types of design changes through our various types of toolkits that we use to improve New York City streets. DOT has done this at quite a number of streets all across the city for the last few years. This is one of the very first sites that we've done at a school, and there's a lot of really interesting components that I can't wait to show you. Okay, great. And it'll have a lot of operational improvements, making the open street work better, and other infrastructure. So now that we have the deck, I will run through just, we might skip the first few slides, just since I gave a lot of the background already. I believe it's coming from Janine. Yeah. Does everyone know what Open Streets is? Raise your hand. Yay, okay, cool. So we have a lot of, I'm still seeing your, this like web page. You may.
I have a different thing on my screen. Sabina, is yours on? No, I would have to try to. That's the thing. Well, this is my screen.
Can you stop sharing? Where we're sharing?
Yay. Okay, just make it full screen and then I'll run through this really, really quickly. Next slide. Already went through all of that. Open Streets, great program. Glad you all know it. We've done this work at a lot of these sites all across the city. We have a number of planned projects in a lot of different ways, shapes and sizes all across the city. And like I mentioned, we are required by law in order to do these types of projects in open streets. Next slide. Here's just a few photo examples of different things that we've been able to do, everything from full plazas to street seats, bike boulevards, different types of bike and pedestrian safety upgrades. We've really done a lot on open streets over these last few years. Next slide. And at this point, I will hand it over to Sabina and I'll run the keyboard.
Thank you. Thank you for bearing with our technology issues. Hopefully for the next presentations, it'll be a lot smoother than ours. I'm Sabina. I work at Open Plans. I'm a community planner. We work with schools across the city with public space and transportation issues, and we provide them with free technical assistance. We've been partnering with the DOT and Project for Public Spaces. We have Elena over here as well on the street improvement project in Open Street for the past 2 years. Go to our next slide. And so a little more, Kyle was talking about the Open Street program, which it seems like you guys are very familiar with, but in particular, we're working with 2 co-located schools, City-As-School and M721, both public schools, one a public transfer high school and one a D75 occupational training center, neither of which that have a gym, space for recess, outdoor play. Many a time I've come to the front lobby and seen them using it for performance of the whiz and karate practice and school security officers. And so we've been helping them with their Open Street for the past 2 years, and they use it for regular programming for recess and gym and also cultural programming and block parties. But we've been assisting them with the street improvement project to make it easier for them to staff and manage the Open Street. And so we've presented to this board before about our engagement, but I'm just going to go really quickly through the engagement we've done both with elected officials, the school community, members of the staff and administration, the BID, residents, local businesses. We've done 10 engagement sessions, a lot at the school, but as well with other residents and businesses as well, surveying 264 faculty and students and 132 members of the broader Clarkson community. And you can go really fast to these next slides. So this is just going to be a lot of pictures. Think of this as the appendix of community engagement. Just go through these. You will see Janine on one of these slides, who is able to attend one of our engagement sessions. But through this work, we were able to talk about key priorities, things that made it challenging for them to operate the Open Street. Okay, here's where we'll stop. One of the first priorities that came from engagement is around seating. 96 respondents mentioned seating for a couple reasons. One, kids at M721 who were using the Open Street for recess, who had difficulty standing or walking, had to lie on the street. Frequently when doing outdoor programming, this space would provide a great resource for them. There's also, again, no gym, space for play, seating. Cafeteria is very small, so students at the high school didn't also have enough space to gather or even eat lunch. If we go to the next slide. Traffic safety is also a key priority. The school is right off the Holland Tunnel, and so it makes it kind of a maze for cars. When they're able to use their Open Street and have the gates, this is a great sense of relief, but the school is looking for something a little bit sturdier and safer. Go to the next slide. And of course, we surveyed and talked extensively to the business community. These next few slides are appendices, but if you have questions on loading zones, delivery times, just want to be sure that we've, done all of our research to make sure that we don't have any impact there. And I'll pass it to Elena to talk a little bit more about the design as a result of this engagement.
All right, good evening. I'm Elena Madison. I'm with Project for Public Spaces, and we were providing technical assistance along with open plans, working with the school, and we did a lot of the design and kind of thinking through this engagement process that Sabina was talking about and all the ideas from the students in the school, but also kind of comparing it to what is allowable and what is possible with the small grant that we were able to bring to this project. So we're proposing two main elements. One is a street seat. That's why at the very beginning, when Kyle was entertaining you so masterfully without slides, he was talking about the street seat program. So we're creating a custom-built street seat for the students to be able to hang out and sit and use the open street better. But the other big element that we're proposing is an actual gate that is going to be able to be closed when the open street is being used by the students. One of the biggest obstacles we understood from the school staff and teachers was that the French barriers, the French barricades that we all carry around for the open streets are kind of really difficult for them to use. They require people power, and also they didn't feel very secure, especially with the special needs students having that barrier block traffic. So we have designed and hopefully we'll be installing and kind of pioneering a gate on the street. So if we can go, this is a little bit of a close-up to our little street seat. It really only takes it's about 20 feet, so not even 2 full parking spaces. It's on, there it is. So it's a 20 by 6 wood platform. It has benches for the kids to sit and use, and it's also surrounded by metal planters, which provide extra security and safety to the space. And it's pretty basic in terms of what these seats look like, but we know the kids will make it great fun because they have fantastic ideas and they're so creative. So we're very excited to be able to offer this to the school community. Here's some visualizations that we've done just so people can see. It's not very different from any of the other street seats that you see around the city. We wanted something amazing and original, but right now we're starting very basic. Next, please. Another view. We are locating across the street from the school because the school is actually currently covered in a scaffolding, and the scaffolding is going to stay there. We don't know for how long. And you can't have a street seat next to a scaffolding. So we're across the street, and these are just some of the precedents around the city's street seat program. So our proposal falls into the platform installation. So there's gonna be a wooden platform that brings the street seat at the same level with the curb, so there is no ADA issues, and students can go from the sidewalk onto the platform and off. Next, please. And these are just some examples of street seats that the city has installed in other communities. We know we're not the meatpacking district, but we've been inspired by some of these. So the other big element that we feel is really solving an issue and a real need on the street is this gate. As I mentioned, the French barriers are used to control traffic, but they're heavy. They're somewhat difficult to move, and they don't provide full closure, and there is concerns for safety for the children in the street. Next, please. So this is the proposed location. It's going to be close to the Hudson Street intersection of Clarkson. We are creating 2 curb extensions, both on the north and the south side, and the gate is going to be located within that curb extension. If we go to the next, so here's a visualization. It's a there's basically 2 gates, and one is probably going to be open most of the time because there is a bicycle lane, so we want to make sure that the bicycles can get through. But traffic, and especially cars and buses and other vehicles that are coming off the Holland Tunnel, are not going to be allowed to drive on the street during school hours, during the school open street timeframe. And these are some examples of similar gates that we've seen around the city. So we're hoping that this is going to be a pilot that is successful and is going to be considered in other appropriate locations. Okay, that's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I'm going to open it up to committee members if we could keep our comments concise and our questions tight. Thank you. Sure.
How many people will the street seats accommodate?
It's not a very large space, so we imagine there's probably 20, 25 kids at a time, but you know, teams are creative in how they use seating, so we imagine more. But the space is only 20 by 6, so 20 feet long by 6 feet wide. So you can see it's like 3.5 benches, let's say.
What's the timing on this? When will you do the seat and the gates?
So there's a few different project elements that need to fall into place. The goal is to have everything in by the beginning of next school year. As we all know, school's starting a little later next year. Not going to bring that up. But we are going to put in the markings first, where the curb extension is. The DOT's taking the lead on the curb extension piece. That's at the Hudson side of the street. And then we'll work with open plans and PPS on the gate installation, as well as the street seat. I think those things will probably go in and around the same time.
I'm familiar. I worked summer school at City-As-School. My question is, though, who will have the keys to the gates?
So there's no formal key to the gate. It's completely user oriented. So there's never a lock component when it's closed. When it's closing the street to traffic, you'll just lift a lever and the gate will open. There's not a key. When it's closed, I think we could explore sort of lock so someone can't open it and close it to traffic. But the fire department won't necessarily need a key in an emergency context.
How will the kids get out and in?
The sidewalk, yeah, or I'm sorry, kids
so
get
they're
out
not
in an
going to be
emergency.
blocked. Yes.
I can add. I think two things. Busing occurs before the open street starts. So the open street is open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And so we've selected these, and sometimes it ends a little earlier, but we selected those so that busing and entrance and dismissal don't get interfered with through the open street.
Good, thank you.
It's also a truck route, so those times are specific to when the truck route restrictions aren't in place too.
Daniel. Will there be new parking regulations on the street? I saw a number of cars on this in your illustrations.
We're not making any changes to the parking regulations. This project does require a handful of spots to be removed, though.
I believe there is 2 parking spaces that are eliminated, but one of them is actually illegal because it's on top of the speed bump. So, but no regulation is changing. We're just legalizing a illegal parking spot, the other way around.
Any other committee questions?
So if you're having parking, when the street is actually close to traffic, I guess they'll still be able to inch their way out, but then they can't come back in?
We definitely try to accommodate people as needed, but given that this is a school that has a lot of AVO, authorized vehicle parking, a lot of the cars that are parked there are for teachers and staff that work at the school, so they don't typically leave in the middle of the day.
And I'm just going to raise the question when we had the pre-meeting on this is just, we'll probably have to have the school and, parks and others work with picking up trash at the street seat, just because I know how heavily used the park is just on the other side and how trash builds up there. So,
Yeah, we're working.
Yes.
Go ahead. We're working closely with the school to develop a maintenance plan that makes sense for them. They're really excited about the horticulture elements of the street seat, but also the trash collection elements too.
Do we have any questions from the public? If you have a question, just line up behind that speaker, the microphone, and then we'll just take a, and we're going to limit comments to 1 minute or less. Okay, go ahead. And just say your name
My
and,
name's Joseph Smith. I have a very quick question. Whose job is it to open and close the gate every day?
Right now, it's the schools. They signed a formal contract with the Department of Transportation that says that staffing is the school administration's job. Right now, it's school administrators at City-As-School. This gate hopefully reduces some of that burden there, but it's still the job of the school.
Okay. One follow-up. Why are you allowing e-bikes going 30 miles an hour on the street while the children are playing there?
So yeah, we definitely try to balance, as best as possible, bikes on the block, but, e-bikes and micromobility is definitely a new frontier for our agency. We've done a lot of work to do outreach and different types of design changes and other initiatives to make it a little bit safer when pedestrians and folks that ride bikes are mixing, but we continue to improve upon that in the future.
Jen, to jump in, what is the speed limit on Clarkson Street?
The speed limit on Clarkson Street, when it comes to bikes?
No, for any vehicle.
Well, technically, the street is fully closed to all traffic during this time, so the speed limit is only for emergency vehicles on an as-needed basis, so local and through traffic isn't permitted. Bikes that access the space are still, required to follow the relevant laws that have the miles per hour for bikes, which I'll look to the bikes team for guidance.
Okay, thank you. Next question, your name and your question. Thank you.
Sam. Admirable goal to try and improve for the kids in the area. Clarkson is at least in my experience, a major thoroughfare for people coming off of the West Side Highway and moving toward, let's say, Houston Street. Have you analyzed the traffic flows and the impact on folks using that as a major connector to getting basically easterly along the city, courthouse, et cetera?
So since the open street is limited in scope and is for just a few hours a day, we don't actually do any traffic analysis in order to make those evaluations. Should we propose something a little bit more robust when it comes to the design change on the street, that might trigger some traffic evaluation. We anecdotally have observations, we work with open plans, and of course the school to monitor that. I mentioned earlier that this street is actually a truck route, so we were very strategic in picking the hours of the day that we ultimately approved for the open street, because the school did actually ask for all day from like 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. or something like that, but we ultimately shortened it so it's avoiding those AM and PM rush hours when we see most truck traffic coming off the West Side Highway.
And I just want to jump in. They've had the open street before. This is just a souped up version with a street seat and nicer gates. So
And just a quick follow-on, you mentioned that sometimes these do become permanent. Does that flow to the closure? And if so, would you do like sort of an EIS style analysis of traffic at that point?
Should the street be transformed into something like a pedestrian plaza, that does trigger certain traffic analysis that has to happen, but that's not being contemplated at this site right now.
thank you. Any final questions?
I do believe there was a few in the chat I saw on
okay,
Zoom.
I'm sorry. Can you elevate Pete Davies? Okay, he messaged the chat. I'm going to read the question. Could you speak to how the funding for Clarkson Street will be managed? Which entity is in charge of that management?
Sure. The funding is coming from a grant, and it is coming to open plans, and it is going to be expended to essentially construct the seat and the gate. And we're currently working with engineers to engineer the gate and fabricate all of these elements. So it's private funding. It's not from the city budget.
Okay.
If I could just ask my question beyond what was in
I
the
thought that was your question. My apologies. Go ahead, Pete.
That's okay. No, we had, I think we had learned at a previous session that Hudson Square Bid was going to be somewhat involved in the management of the funding. Is that correct or is that incorrect?
You're, I think, confusing that with the park that would be adjacent to 388 Hudson or Little Sixth Avenue.
I see. So that is
That's
on
different.
the north side of Clarkson Street is the area you're mentioning there?
The bid would only go to the south side of Clarkson Street, so they, for example, wouldn't deal with the trash or anything like that.
Well,
They are
okay.
not involved in this project.
But they've been a
Okay,
great
perfect.
outreach
Thank you so
partner
much.
for getting to reach businesses in the area, and we're grateful for their support.
Fantastic.
I have one quick question.
Okay, your name and your quick question.
Sherry Jones, are the children allowed to, are the children not allowed to play in the bike lane?
So the street is really open primarily for the school's use first and foremost. So in these contexts, bikes are considered guests. The primary user of the street really is students. You know, in our experience, bikes and pedestrians definitely can mix pretty easily, but there's certain things like signage and other delineation elements that can be put into place to sort of make it a little bit safer. So technically speaking, the kids can play in this context, even as you see here, they can play in the striped bike lane when the open street is active. When the street is open to traffic, you know, that's a different story. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to add, has it ever been discussed making it a full pedestrian block in that if you have a bike, you get off and walk it just for the protection of the children?
So I think something like that definitely would be possible through DOT's Plaza program. The application is currently open right now. If anyone does want to apply to the Plaza program, it's up until June 30th. You know, one key part of the Open Streets program has been working closely with schools. New York City has an over 100-year history of activating and letting schools make use of the streets adjacent to their building through play streets and police athletic league. So this is something that New York City's been doing for quite a long time. And we're trying to sort of emulate what many other cities, notably Paris, London, and so on, have done across the globe in order to really maximize streets to not only be as safe as possible for students, but also to provide public space amenities and other benefits, not only for the school community, but for the wider community as well.
Thank you. All righty. I don't see any other questions. I want to thank you for your presentation, and thank you for doing it so quickly and efficiently.
Thank you.
And okay,
Thank you all.
take it down. Thank you. Our second agenda item is a list of the open streets that have applied for Community Board 2. There's a list on our website. Mark, if you could share the easier to read list versus the one that's linked on the agenda, because that's too small for the screen. But there are several open streets. They are all returning open streets. They are all full open streets. And I just want my first question while Mark is pulling that up, we received an email from DOT that we have 10 days to review this, and I'm just trying to wonder how that plays into, because our board meeting isn't, we wouldn't, whatever we do in terms of these open streets, our board meeting is at the end of May. And we got an email on that today. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Just go there.
Me again, sorry. Hello, I also manage Open Streets citywide. So we are here in the 45-day notification period. So that means all the community boards, electeds, and so on have 45 days from the time that the letters were sent, which was, Kate, March 24th. So add 45 days from there, which means you have a little, probably less than 2 weeks in order to respond. We, of course, will continue to accept any feedback, comments, ideas, suggestions while the Open Street is active too. But this is sort of this like initial period before the Open Street launches for you all to opine on whatever you want. Thank you.
All righty. Do we have any comments on the open streets? Okay, Shirley?
Yeah, I just have a question. I noticed that there wasn't any assignment for the Waverly Place open street on 7th Avenue south to Christopher Street, and wondered if they're, at least on the chart, have you identified?
That one should be there. And
Yeah,
the
it
Waverly
says
one-
other.
Here, yeah, we've got it right here. Thank you for printing these out, Kate. Here is the letter.
Other wasn't categorized.
Did I misinterpret it?
Yeah, I see it. It's a second from the bottom.
Yes.
The name of the entity is Waverly Open Street. So by other, I meant it's not a bid, it's not a business, and so forth. Well, no, and yeah. Next year, when you send this to us, it would be nice if you put it in a chart and not make us create one.
You might just be happy next year.
Oh,
We're
awesome.
over these
Thank you.
letters.
Yeah, do you have information on that group?
So that is primarily the businesses that are on those corridors, mostly led by Jeffrey's Grocery, which is right at Christopher and Waverly.
Okay. All right. And I'm just going to share one comment that is not my opinion, but it's from another board member that was concerned about the open street on Christopher and how crosstown buses will continue to pass through there. Can you address that?
Yeah, so we work closely with the MTA on all bus route reroutes and detours as needed. This open street actually has been around since 2020. The M8, because of the St. Mark's Place open street on the east side and the Christopher Street open street on the west side, is pretty significantly impacted on the weekends. On the west side, the reroute is actually a little bit easier because they can kind of just stay to the left on Grove and continue on their way and then sort of detour around. But we work really closely with the MTA on messaging and updates, so they have everything posted on their website and in their app, and the outreach that we do together when buses are impacted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Any other questions on these open streets, which I'm sure you can all read very easily from your seats? Okay. These are all returning open streets, so they've been here in the past, so none of these are new ones. Okay. Alrighty, we are going to go to our third agenda item, and I'm just going to give a sort of an introduction. Just thank you so much for coming tonight. Really appreciate it. Okay. So we are going to give everyone who chooses to speak 1 minute to speak. You will ask your questions. I will give you the 1 minute, so there will that won't be back and forth like we had with the earlier ones. It'll just, if you have 2 questions and you want to get them in your 1 minute, please ask those 2 questions. There will be no back and forth just because that's not, it's easy, it's not an efficient way to run a meeting. And I'm just going to ask everyone whether you love it or hate it. And if that's all your comment is, say I love it or hate it. But if you we're specifically looking for suggestions, ideas, ways to improve things in terms of the presentation. I have not seen all these changes. What was posted last month. So what we'll do is have DOT present the plan, and then the committee will take questions. And then we have one board member here, and if we have a couple board members here, our board chair, Valerie Della Rosa, somewhere in the back, she joined us, and then we'll open it up to the public. Oh, she's right here. She's squeezing at the end of the table. So I actually have the slides here downloaded, and I've already have them. Oh, it is already up. Okay, well, we're good to go then. We don't need to do that. I'm going to turn it, who's presenting from DOT? Okay, introduce yourself and we'll, yeah, I can give you a hand microphone, and if you want, I can do the slides if you prefer. But you need a microphone.
But if
So the people online can hear you.
Okay. Actually, Kate. Thank you, everybody. My name is Hayes Lord. I work at DOT's Cycling and Micromobility Unit. I appreciate being here tonight to be able to update everybody on the design proposal that we presented to the community last month. Since that time, we've met with a number of stakeholders along the corridor. We've listened to people's ideas, concerns, and we are here tonight to present our findings and how we're proceeding with this project. So by way of background, this project is Lafayette 4th Avenue, so it extends basically from Prince Street to 14th Street, but then there's a small section on Union Square East between 14th and 15th Street. Back in 2014, we converted the existing buffered bike lane to a protected bike lane, so it's now over 10 years in existence, and it's been a very successful project because it's one of a few protected bike lanes in this particular area, so it serves a real important need. We've also seen a lot of changes in that community, a lot of more cyclists, a lot more pedestrians. Cycling has certainly blossomed tremendously. There are multiple city bike stations that exist along the corridor. That's helping to generate a lot of the traffic. One of the impetuses for selecting Lafayette Street as a project is simply because if you see on the map, we have a protected bike lane basically starting from a Flatiron district, heading south down towards the Brooklyn Bridge. However, there is a gap, Lafayette Street, 4th Avenue, which is only one-way northbound. So for anybody wanting to travel southbound in a protected bike lane, there is no option that is nearby. You have 2nd Avenue, that's pretty far, and you have 7th Avenue, which is even further. So it's about a mile separation between those two. So it's a big inconvenience to be able to negotiate over to those areas, especially if you're looking to head south. So by introduction, for anybody who hasn't seen this presentation before, we are looking to convert the current northbound one-way protected bike lane to a two-way protected bike lane, and thereby changing the configuration of the road. We're adding more pedestrian space. We are managing parking, but we're also managing traffic. As you all probably recognize, the street is overbuilt. Even with the changes, we see that we can make a change that allows for one travel lane in the northbound direction with turn lanes. So you'll have a right turn lane or a left turn lane to be able to help that traffic continue to flow. There's also a space which we call the amenity strip. It's the buffer zone between the bike lane and the parking lane, and that allows for bike parking, refuge bins that are now coming online more, and anything else that the community is interested in pursuing. You can continue. So moving north, now in the Astor Place area, with the bike share station in front of Wegmans, we are looking to relocate that in order to be able to maintain the profile of the two-way bike lane. So that now will move from East 8th Street and East 9th Street down south of Astor Place. We worked with our bike share folks. They were more interested in maintaining the bike share station along the avenue or along the street where it has always been and been recognizable for all the users. And that is one of the most heavily used bike share stations in the city. Proceed. So proceeding north, now on 4th Avenue, what we have is a continuation of the two-way bike lane. We've actually now extended the sidewalk. We're proposing it be painted for the time being before we can bring it into Capitol. With that, we have the merging of both 4th Avenue and Lafayette Street. So between 9th and 13th Street, it's going to be two-way to be able to manage all the merging of that traffic. Again, we will have left turn lanes, right turn lanes, to be able to help process the traffic. Now we do have one hotel along the corridor, the Hyatt Union Square. Currently does not have an official loading zone. So what we're proposing is now what is typical that we do all across the city, a loading zone where there is space between the parking lane for where people are getting dropped off or picked up, where they can stand and wait for whatever activity they need to do so that they're out of traffic. You can proceed. So proceeding north, between 13th and 14th Street, this is where we're setting up for the Union Square East between 14th and 15th. So this is where we now have additional turn lanes plus one now moving lane. now on the block between Union Square, well, on Union Square East between 14th and 15th Street, this is where we have currently an existing bike lane, not protected, but we're continuing the two-way up to 15th Street. Why 15th Street? Simply because there is an existing two-way bike lane on the west side of Union Square East that wraps around onto 17th Street up onto Broadway. So we're making that connection at that particular junction. We are proposing, since it's only going to be one lane, we've talked to the hospital and Zeggendorf Towers, and we have developed a design that we think that will organize the space much better, which I'll get to in a little while. But it'll provide for a loading zone, essentially, for the immediate drop-off or pickup of people who are visiting or going into the hospital for whatever services they're pursuing. Please proceed. This is a diagram of what the traffic flow is. So the red arrows are the different lane assignments. So you can see the number of lanes that we have along each block and where the turn lanes are. And what this also shows by the colored boxes is what type of signal that we're going to be introducing to improve safety at those particular intersections. So the bottom three are basically split LPIs, leading pedestrian intervals. You probably have all experienced them traveling throughout the city because we have them all over the place. Basically what it does is it allows the pedestrians and cyclists to proceed across the intersection before the turning traffic goes. The upper two boxes are what we call split phases. So those are controlling every single movement that exists so that bikes are held, pedestrians are held so motorists can turn. Motorists are then held so that bikes and pedestrians can proceed. So it's a very safe design. You can now proceed. So when I first presented this project to you about a month ago, if you look at this map, I don't have a comparison to it. We've basically doubled the number of pedestrian treatments that we're including in this design. We heard you. I heard that we're not doing enough for pedestrians. So what we're doing here is adding more concrete. We're adding more painted spaces. So we're expanding a lot of the existing concrete pedestrian islands. Currently, we're expanding it in paint with a future into concrete. So we're addressing the issue of being able to make it safer for pedestrians who are crossing the street. We're also doing more curb extensions as well as sidewalk extensions. So we're really giving it our full all. But concrete is not coming until a little bit later this year. The reason why? We've got a subway underneath the road. So we actually have to go through a process with the MTA in order to get approvals to proceed. Now, we've already done that in terms of what we did back in 2014 because there's already existing concrete islands, but we have to do it again. It's the bureaucratic process that we need to follow. You can proceed. So when we last talked to you, we heard a lot of different concerns, thoughts, and so forth. We have since met with nearly more than a half dozen of different stakeholders along the corridor who've shared their concerns and interests and so forth. And we feel that the plan that we're presenting today is a one that now addresses many of the concerns that we hear. So I'm looking forward to even sharing that with you. So, but I'll start up at the top at Union Square East between 14th and 15th. For many of you who already sort of know this area, it does get a little bit chaotic because of the activity at the hospital. There's really no curb management there, and it's a very busy hospital, so that there's a lot of movement in and out. And so essentially, what's happening, and this can be at any time of day, is that there is only one travel lane that it basically is existing. And so that's just creating a lot of congestion and spillback. And we think we can solve that by the design that we're proposing. So as this diagram shows, we've got an existing and a proposed. The existing demonstrates that you might have illegal parking by 15th Street because of the food vendor, people are stopping, picking up stuff, or some other activity has to occur up there, and that is now squeezing the lane. To the south, where most of the pickup and drop off is, you've got, you know, the double parking, and they're coming in and just parking wherever they really want to. So we feel that the design that we're proposing, where we have actually a buffer zone next to the parking lane, which is primarily for accessoride, we feel that this buffer provides actually organization on that road to be able to, for motorists to recognize that they're going to be driving and needing to park in that space so that they're out of any through traffic that is looking to head north. So we feel that with that design and with what we've set up back in between 13th and 14th Street, you're not going to have the merging of traffic, because if you look at the bottom left, you have now 2 lanes that essentially are going into 1 lane, and you're doing that either in the intersection or just beyond, or just at the beginning of the block to be able to get around. So right now, we think that with the design that we're proposing, it's going to address that and allow for traffic to flow a lot more efficiently than it currently is today. Now, to this place, Grace Church School. We recognize that this is a school K through 8, and that there are a lot of children that are traveling and traveling around these few blocks. What we recognize too is that as these 2 photos show, is that with the United States Postal Service trucks parking where they are right now, it creates really poor sight lines. So for cyclists who are traveling, and if there's even somebody who's coming and using the crosswalk, and I will say one of the plantings at the southern end of the concrete islands, that obscures both the pedestrian's view as well as the cyclist view. So you've got a combination of different items along the parking lane that is actually creating problems for sight lines so that cyclists and pedestrians can see one another and be able to respond accordingly. And that also goes, go back again. That also goes for pedestrians who are visiting the school or even just coming over, that are coming from the travel lane. They're cutting through the parked cars. And so we all know that when you come through parked cars, very dangerous. And so that's also a contributing factor to any sort of safety concerns that are here. But we have a solution. Next slide. But before I get to that, we just want to demonstrate that the top diagram shows what the existing conditions is today. This second diagram is what we proposed the first time we were here a month ago. So meeting with the school, looking at the conditions a little bit further, we are recommending a different design, which I will demonstrate what it looks like next. So what we're proposing in this design, and I'll draw your attention really to the aerial view at the bottom. As you can see, starting by East 10th Street, we've expanded the concrete pedestrian islands with paint, but then we've continued the paint to be able to connect it to basically where the entrance is to this facility at East 11th Street. We're building that all out. We are also providing a bike corral on the south side of the street, because that is also the side of the street which is heading northbound. So that's providing a little bit more better sight lines for anybody who's either crossing the street as a pedestrian or cyclists that are traveling north. With the design, I'll draw your attention to the top right. What we're doing here is adding rumble strips. We're narrowing the bike lane, as well as adding look markings, again, to sort of emphasize these crossings a lot more for pedestrians as well as cyclists. So we're really trying to focus our attention on making pedestrian improvements so that cyclists are aware of what is going on at that particular junction. You could go. So we also heard parking regulations. There's right now just truck loading, 7 a.m., 6 p.m. It's unenforceable, so there's no turnover. So that's leading to double parking. That's a problem. That creates other issues such as weaving of vehicles weaving or just slowing down traffic a lot more. So what we're investigating right now is making changes to the parking regulations along the corridor between Spring Street to 14th Street to be able to provide for more metered commercial and passenger parking. The time periods are still being worked out, but as you could probably see, we're starting still at 7 a.m. in the morning, and the time period in the afternoon can be anywhere from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And that way, we'll be able to allow for more turnover of cars, and so that'll just help facilitate less double parking. I will also say, back on the original side, the parking regulation changes that we're proposing are essentially in line with what you're seeing over on Broadway. So there's, it's pretty much the same. So I just wanted to share that with you. It's not a unique situation for just Lafayette 4th Avenue. Now you can proceed, thank you. So one other topic that came up was gospel and the noise pollution that it's been causing overnight and the concerns that the residents have with just the amount of parking, double parking, congestion, noise, and whatever else goes on between 2 and 4 a.m. on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, Sunday morning at this facility. So what actually the gospel had proposed, and it hadn't moved forward, so I want to be able to advance this for them, is to be able to create from truck loading, convert that section basically from 281, where their facility is, to the intersection, basically convert that to no parking between 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. What that means is that there's really no overnight parking available. Then that's all days. Also, it does restrict what metered parking we could put in that place. But we think we're helping to address the issue that exists. I will also want to take a moment to say that the proposals that we are advancing, the designs, we are very much interested in monitoring what is happening after the design is installed. So we will be continually monitoring, hearing from everybody here who wants to voice their opinion, and you're all here tonight to voice your opinion one way or another, but we're not walking away. That's something that DOT has never done, is walk away from a project. We stick with it, whether we like what we're hearing from the community or whether but we're here to make improvements. So if we need to make signal timing changes because there's a little bit more of a backup than we expected, we're going to do that. Do we need to throw more concrete to be able to improve the pedestrian's ability to cross the street or anything else that might improve pedestrian circulation and safety? That's what we'll do. We don't walk away. And I travel this corridor almost every day, so I see it. So I will know. Please advance. So another question about, do we have two-way bike lanes? Now, two-way bike lanes are certainly a new item in our toolbox, but it's not foreign to us. We've got quite a number of them. One of the things that the community was asking us about was, well, what about two-way bike lanes that you've converted that match our exact condition. I will acknowledge that's a little harder because we do have them all over the city, but they are all in very different areas that might not totally replicate what we experience on Lafayette 4th Avenue. But we actually, oh, I'm jumping ahead of myself. With the two-way bike lane, with the left turning or even right turning, what that enables us to do with the pedestrian space, pedestrian island, is it allows for, again, continue to say this, visibility. When I can see you, you can see me, we communicate, and then we can make decisions on how we proceed. And that's really crucial, making that eye contact, knowing what's going on so that you can behave responsibly and respect others. And we want to be able to see that. So with these islands, we're able to make that happen. The left turning lanes always moves the traffic out of the through lane. That just helps the progression of traffic along the corridor. So that just also improves the safety for pedestrians as well as cyclists, because then you know that they're there and that they're going to be turning at some point in time, whether they have the signal, which I've already mentioned before, or whether it's just one of the natural things where the motorists are able to turn whenever it's cleared to do so. Okay, please proceed. So the question, as I was jumping ahead of myself on, is crash stats. So as I said, we have very limited number of facilities that exist identical to what we see on Lafayette 4th Avenue, but we actually have one on Lafayette between Prince and Spring, or Spring and Prince. And what these graphs are showing you is basically a 10-year look back. And I'll jump over to Lafayette between Prince and Spring, or right, the reverse. We converted this protected bike lane, which was one-way northbound, so that was one of the prerequisites in identifying the locations where we were going to do crash analysis. This was one-way before 2023. We upgraded it. And so as you can see in this diagram, traffic conditions, what you're seeing is injuries. It's basically kind of flat. And so the other important aspect of this is, were there any bike on pedestrian crashes? I will acknowledge there was one. However, that was 3 years before it was converted to a two-way facility. So it was long ago. For Dyckman Street, anybody who's been up in Dyckman, that's a busy corridor, very much like Lafayette 4th Avenue. We converted that back in 2018. So we've got 7 years under our belt on that. Not a single bike on ped crash or injury. So I think that the statistics speak for themselves about how low any bike on ped injuries might exist. So in summary, what we're looking to achieve for people who want to walk and enjoy the community, obviously we're implementing a lot of safety improvements to make the walking condition very enjoyable, improve that quality, bring more people into the community. What we're also looking to do for people who want to cycle, there's a lot more cyclists, there's a lot more families who are cycling with their kids. Hopefully there's some that will be biking here now that we have a two-way facility. But we want to be able to make sure that you have the right environment and the right infrastructure for you to be able to travel safely along the corridor. Many people say, why don't you choose Broadway? Well, if you've chosen Broadway as a moderate cyclist, you'll recognize that there are some issues because it's only a conventional bike lane. It gets parked in. Now you're having to go out into traffic. If you're not a very experienced cyclist, You're going to be very nervous. You're going to be scared. You're now going to go over to Lafayette Street and go the wrong way because you felt much more comfortable traveling over there because it's protected, even though you're going the wrong way. So we feel that what we're proposing is going to be able to provide a great deal of benefit for both cyclists as well as pedestrians. That is it for my presentation. I will now take questions.
We're gonna
from the members
yeah,
first.
sorry. First, just so we know, we have a lot of people here, so I'm gonna ask the committee to ask questions about the new design. I am gonna start with one follow-up thing that you didn't hit on. You were gonna provide more details, maybe a three-dimensional picture of what the amenity space might look like and examples of where that you've had that in other parts of New York City.
Okay, I will get that to you.
But
Because
can
that's
you-
actually, that's the amenity strip for a protected bike lane is slightly a new type of design because now we're having more, bike corrals, more bike, cargo bike parking.
Can you just
So-
take us through what is proposed for being included on these amenity strips?
Do you want to go back to that? So the amenity strip, and one of the things that I think it was the NoHo Beta, the Village Alliance, was interested in doing is, as well as DOT, is greening, parts of Lafayette Fourth where there was space to do so. So the amenity strip, where it was feasible, would be able to provide for putting planters in or some other type of raised bedding, because as I mentioned before, there is a subway below you. Depending on how deep it is below the surface of the roadway, you may or may not be able to plant a tree, but to be able to provide additional greening. Bike corrals are something that are helping to support people who are choosing to bike. So that's a space that will fit into basically, they're typically, 10 by 20? They can fit right into that amenities strip. There is also the cargo biking, as we're all experiencing. There's new micro mobility cargo bikes essentially that are now all over the city, and they are parking in different ways in the bike lane that is now actually obstructing the bike lanes, depending on how wide it is. They're parking in other areas. So we're trying to address that as well. As Kyle, who was here, earlier, said, the micromobility movement is very new to us. So we're starting to adopt to that changing environment to see ways to be able to improve it so that the city can continue to function and function safely. I hope that answered your question.
What about trash containerization?
Right, sorry, thank you. And trash containerization, since that's coming, fairly fast, we're also looking for those spaces because we have a number of trash containers that already exist along the corridor. So we're starting to develop designs to be able to accommodate, those types of facilities and any expansion into the future.
Any opportunities for street seats?
And that too, again, so depending on the area, the width of the buffer, that can open up to that as well. So it's just, the creativity and what material we have available to proceed.
I just have a question on the parking regs. I think that's really critical. Like, that's sort of the icing on the cake to make all this work. Are you thinking you would implement the design and then manipulate the parking regs, or are you going to try to have that done simultaneously?
Well, in reality, we could proceed with the design as presented, but we would like to do it sort of in concert with one another, but one shouldn't hold off on another. So if further evaluation is required for parking regulation changes and our timing is not right, that can come in, a little later.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question about the relocation of that massive city bike station in front of Wegmans to Lafayette Street. There's a lot going on Lafayette Street, and that new relocation looks to be, you know, right across from the Public Theater, and there's a lot of activity there. Was there any consideration given to relocating that station to, say, Astor Place?
Thank you for
A much
allowing me.
quieter situation. Yeah.
Thank you. So yes, you know, that was one of our original thoughts, was to relocate it there. But again, speaking with the bike share team, they preferred to have it on Lafayette Street because that's where it's always been. People recognize that who are common users of it. So they preferred to have it there. We have met with the Public Theater to go over, you know, what design is occurring in front of their facility and so forth. And so, excuse me, you know, we're supporting what Bike Share is definitely recommending. And there could be, you know, with also, and thank you for allowing me to explain Astor Place. Astor Place is also getting redesigned, and that will become one-way eastbound. And on the north side of the street, there will be a two-way bike lane to be able to connect Lafayette Street with Broadway. So we have a limited amount of space on Astor Place at this point in time. So that, again, is not necessarily a reason, but, you know, it was a decision-making to keep it on Lafayette. You're welcome. Excuse me. I'm going to get some water.
Am I on? Oh, okay. So could you just go into a little more detail on the loading zones? You were saying that you were adding some things into the loading zones, and I just wondered what you were meaning, that you had done changes on them, because I always think of loading zones in just the way of, you know, loading, unloading, but it sounded like you were doing more. Is that correct?
No, it was just the changes to the one that it's now collecting payment, so for commercial or passengers, and then also depending on the time of day, those are really the only changes that are going to be
Be
occurring.
your typical loading zone.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. But now
Right.
something that's more enforceable, because with the current parking regulations, as I mentioned earlier, there's no opportunity for turnover. You can basically park there for 11 hours if you're a commercial vehicle and get away with it. And that just, you know, stymies any other commercial activity that needs to occur on that block.
And then you were talking about the adding more pedestrian islands when in the first plan, and more concrete. So could you locate where those will be?
Yeah, there is a slide that demonstrates, and basically if you see that slide, it's literally almost every single intersection that is going to experience some type of pedestrian improvement, whether it's concrete or whether it's painted for the time being before it goes to concrete.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Lois?
When you mentioned the hospital, what hospital are you talking about?
Thank you for allowing me to clarify. Mount Sinai,
And what is the address for Mount Sinai?
10 Union Square East. Yeah.
It's urgent care. It's,
Oh, okay,
it's
sorry.
urgent care. It's totally different
Okay,
than saying a
my
hospital.
apologies.
Yeah, I think there's also been some concern about like emergency vehicle access. Could you speak on that a bit?
Well,
like
yeah.
For, I mean, like the reduced lane and questions about whether those vehicles could use the bike lane, et cetera.
Well, we've always promoted that if necessary, the bike lane can be used, and especially so the bike lane, for anybody who wants to know, the bike lane with the concrete pedestrian islands that exist today is 11 feet wide. Why is that? We needed sanitation to sweep and snow removal, so it always had to be accessible by a vehicle. And at that time that we were implementing these over 10 years ago, we had already been talking to PD and emergency service responders saying, you can use it. It's 11 feet wide. You know, I know it might not be convenient for cyclists, but anybody who's on the road has to pull over to the side of the road. New Yorkers don't really like to do it. They like to race right behind that vehicle, but they just pull over to the side so that vehicle, you know, the emergency service vehicle can proceed to wherever they need to go. So we do definitely, you know, continue to encourage it, you know, whether they use it or not. There's also, you know, space that these vehicles can, you know, be able to pull over to the side and have emergency service vehicles go around those cars.
Any other committee members? Okay, I just have, Amy, go ahead.
I have a few questions. I'm sure you're not surprised. Quick question. Is Dykeman Street a one-way street?
Dykeman is actually a two-way street.
Okay, so we had asked if you had examples and crash and statistics on one-way streets with two-way bike lanes.
Right.
Do you have any of those examples?
So that is definitely limited. You know, we
Right.
have a lot of two-way streets, and we were also focusing on Manhattan. We do have some. Skirmahorn is one in downtown Brooklyn.
Right, a little bit different. So I
Yes,
know.
exactly.
Yeah, so I believe some information was sent over to you about a 22-year study in London about two-way bike lanes on one-way streets, and it's not good for pedestrians. So maybe, I think that was sent over to you by Grace Church. You might want to take a look at that. It's almost a 50% increase in pedestrian accidents with bikes and cars once you put, at least in London, over 22 years, once you put a two-way bike lane on a one-way street. So that might want to take a look at that.
Okay. Amy, why don't you, so we're not on the public session yet? We'll just, oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My apologies. And say your name, please.
Sean Macias, thank you. I work at DOT. We did review the document. It actually doesn't, it has pedestrian numbers, but it has no results on the pedestrians. So there's a lot of context that's needed for that assertion. There's 60 pedestrian and bike crashes over a 22-year period across 500 corridors.
Yeah.
So when you do the math, it's like less than a fraction of 1%. So I'm happy we can talk afterwards, but
Okay, great.
we
Thank
took
you.
a look, but it's 50% increase over 22 years over 500 corridors. So it went from 41, I think,
Okay,
to
so-
62.
okay.
So if it's 62 divided by 22 divided by 500, it's getting pretty
Okay.
small.
All right. Okay, thank you. Thanks for clarifying. And thanks for reading it. Hold on. So you said that you were going to build something in concrete between 10th and 11th Street. I know that was that one diagram. That's
Right.
but it looked like a lot of it was paint. So the concrete is the islands or something?
Right, so I've got it on the screen now, and so basically everything that you see in front of the school, right now it would be painted, but it would go into concrete, you know, later this year or next year as a priority.
Okay, thank you. I guess my question to you is, I have two more questions. One is, Wegmans has drastically changed the nature of the neighborhood and the traffic, the way it flows. And it felt like that was never actually discussed or incorporated in this plan. And I'm worried that, particularly on 8th Street, that we're going to have to come back and look at this again because the change in everything with bicycles and delivery cars, et cetera, and where they're parking and where they're on the sidewalks and things is so radically different. And did you take into account the drastic change with bicycles and all the things that are going on, particularly related to Wegmans and using public space, street space, et cetera, for their own needs when you were doing this design?
We had some level of consideration because we recognize, and we met with Wegmans to discuss this project, the relocation, and what they're interested in doing. And in fact, they're looking to green part of their frontage on Lafayette Street. But I think, you know, with future work that we're doing on Astor and any place else. And actually, one of the some part of the parking regulation changes is also a result of just the constant use of Wegmans drivers in front of the public theater that is then preventing, vendors from coming in and performing their service to whomever. And so, these parking regulations will be able to help move those vehicles, let them do their business, but come in and out instead of just hanging out for a few hours, depriving other, motorists the use of that space.
Yeah, I think there's some other things. If the transportation alternatives video that was very good, the one time they stop and say, "What's going on?" is when they're in front of Wegmans and there's a car and the bikes are all over the place. So there's some problems. But anyway, and the last thing I would say is, people who live on 4th Avenue or have children in school on 4th Avenue and work on 4th Avenue, over 500 people signed a petition asking you to redesign the bike lane, the southbound bike lane on 4th Avenue. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of votes. And I'm really surprised that you didn't. I know you mentioned not moving the southbound bike lane from 14th Street to Astor's Place to Broadway, when all you have to do is paint to make it a protected bike lane. I'm really surprised with that kind of community outreach that I don't see those changes here.
Thank you.
Why?
Okay.
So I think I explained this the last time I was here, is like Broadway right now has an existing bike lane from 14th Street down to Bleecker, where it then connects to the Bleecker Street bike lane. It does not continue south. To improve and encourage cycling, we want to be able to maintain continuity of the bike infrastructure. So that means it would have to continue further south on Broadway. We all know south of East Houston Street on Broadway, there is a bus lane. The street also, even between 14th Street and East Houston Street, the width of the street also changes fairly regularly. And so that definitely creates problems for providing a protected bike lane. The proposal had been for a connection to go around 4th Avenue. So you'd start at East 14th Street and then connect to Astor Place. But anybody who wants to continue south is just going to continue on Broadway. We want to be able to encourage those who have that experience and are skilled to be able to ride Broadway in just a conventional bike lane. But we want to be able to provide a facility that is continuous. And having a facility that is continuous is also a much safer facility. We're also looking to make that connection down to basically the Brooklyn Bridge, where the two-way protected bike lane would make the connection to the Brooklyn Bridge. And for anybody who knows this, we're making changes to the access to the Brooklyn Bridge. So being able to provide that connection instead of having it come from Broadway, which would have its own challenges and be years before we could actually make any changes, because also we've got a lot of retail and commercial businesses along that corridor. So it's not like we can just remove all the parking and not have ramifications of that. We definitely see this as an issue down. Anybody who's traveled in Lower Manhattan on Broadway, it is very choked up simply because there's a lot of demand for parking. And so they're parking in the buffer, they're parking against the Jersey barriers. We've had to put Jersey barriers there to protect that space. They're getting in there. So we want to be able to encourage cycling for all ages and abilities. So we don't want to be able to just put a facility on for just a short few blocks, only to reconnect it to something that, people, once you know that, again, even, anybody who drives around here, once you know a particular route and you know how to get to it, you're going to stay on that route. So you know that Broadway, if you take the protected bike lane on Broadway, that's just going to bring you down to Astor Place before you go back to Lafayette. well, you're going to stay on, you're just going to connect on on Lafayette, which a lot of cyclists are doing right now, is that they're just continuing down. And so we want to be able to make a design that is rational for everybody who is using and is also, what's the word? Well, it's just something that they'll feel comfortable with, and they don't have to continuously jog to be able to get to their destination.
You know, cars make left turns all the time. All the time. Somehow cars get around and they make left turns and right turns, and they seem to be able to go places. I'm surprised bikes can't. You have it in your plan that you are connecting the Astor Place two-way bike line. You say you're connecting it to the Broadway.
Okay, Amy, let's move.
We'll talk about this more later.
Yes. I'm going to just hit on a couple, you can hold that down there. Can hit on a couple things that you didn't address that we raised last meeting, and some new stuff is, Amy raised it a little bit, but you know, we heard a lot of concern about the working conditions of the e-bike delivery workers that convene in and around Astor Place. And I know the city has a deliverista station, I'm not sure what the name of it's called, down by City Hall. Is that something you would consider putting in this location? And then I guess we, as a board, I think we're going to need to reach out to Wegmans, because these are their indirect employees.
If I recall correctly, and maybe Kate, you might know. Oh, sorry. I think that there was also a charging station on 4th Avenue.
It's just a charging station. It's not like a place to hang out while you're waiting for, yeah, because there's geo-tracking, is our understanding, on the delivery people, so they have to stay within a close radius, otherwise they don't get any work. Got it. So it's a bit, it's inhumane. And then my other question or comments, and I raised one of these to Kate, is, you know, we have the ladder 30, the Bowery Boys mission, ladder engine 33, ladder 9 on Great Jones. And we also have ladder 20 and engine 13 on Lafayette. For the Great Jones one, it'd be great if we can figure out a way to, when they get a call, to make the light green on, so they can immediately turn and stop the traffic going from the other directions. They're a very busy fire station. It's a huge station. It's sort of 3 bays of traffic, you know, and 2 parking garages. So I think that would be, from an emergency perspective, we'd love if you could look into that. And for both of these ladder trucks, when they put up their ladder, they have these sort of wings that go out on the side of the truck. And just want to make sure that the concrete barriers and everything that you're putting in place in the amenity zone will still provide space for them to basically park their trucks and get the ladders up. Okay, so now we're going to go to the public session, and we have a list. We're going to call people in the order they came on. That's the last one. Okay, and we're going to give you 1 minute. Janet is going to time you and stop you at the end of a minute. You are welcome to go for less time, especially if you are one of the later people called. And I just want to, there'll be, well, you can ask your questions or your comments, and then we'll have the answers. There will not be back and forth. You can get your friend who's next in line to ask that question if you have it. And just please, everyone, be respectful. I think we all have a lot of strong opinions in this community. So please share your ideas, share your suggestions. And we're going to start. I apologize if we mispronounce anyone's name. And finally, we are still having internet connectivity. Oh, you're back on. Okay, good. I'm out. So we aren't going to be able to, if your name is called and you're online, we need you to raise your hand, and then we'll elevate you to speak. So I'm going to call the first 5 names: Suresh Wald, Chris Sanders, Cecil Scheib, Benjamin Lors, and Paul Devonen, something like that. And then you'll just line up behind here. And you've got the timer? It's okay. Okay, first up.
Yeah, hello.
Trost?
Yeah.
All right, we can hear you. You have to put it close to your mouth.
Okay.
Like it's an
Hi.
ice cream cone.
Hi, I'm Jorge Wald. I live on 11th Street, a few blocks from here.
A little closer.
Can you hear
Ben,
now?
why don't you give him that one? We'll give you that one. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Horish Vald. I live on 11th Street, few blocks from here. We're a family of 5. We only use bicycles to move around. My 3 kids, 15, 13, and 8, we bike together. Right now, we can't bike southbound. We love this plan because it connects us to Soho very easily. We have no way right now to bike safely southbound. The grown-ups ride on the street and the children ride on the sidewalk up till age 14, when it's illegal for them to ride on the sidewalk. I'm here to very much support this plan. It's a beautiful plan, and it will make our life much, much safer. Thank you for doing that.
Chris?
Thanks, Community Board 2. I'm Chris Sanders, and I work in the area and shop in this area, usually Wegmans twice a week. I also go to the coffee shops in the area. I shop in Soho at the Vuori store, well, no longer the Nike store anymore, but I used to shop there a lot. And I used to patronize all the businesses in the area. So I'm going to support this plan because I think it makes things safer for me. I primarily use my bike to go to the coffee shop in the morning between the time of like 8:30 and 10 a.m., but also to get my groceries from Wegmans. I live on 5th Avenue. Also, should be noted that 14 people were either killed or seriously injured between the years of 2019 and 2023. All right, well, thank you. I support this plan. Thanks.
Cecil?
Thank you. My name is Cecil Scheib. I live in the East Village. I work at Astor Place. I walk by this lovely church and school on my lunch hour. My son is in 3rd grade, and so I sympathize with everyone here talking about safety. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing, right? Traffic that is calm and predictable. That means cyclists as well as cars, right? I bike my son home. He has the ride along. He's on the back. He's 9, coming southbound from Central Park, from Midtown, from Chelsea, whatever we do. Broadway is not a place you want a 9-year-old, and I don't think that can be. This is the heart of a good plan, the 2-way bike lane. Thank you to everyone here who's going to advocate for their vision of their neighborhood. And I respect that. And I want everyone to be happy and feel they have a safe space. And I am never going to not advocate for this plan that's going to help my 9-year-old be safer, because he is my world. And this will help him be safer. Thank you.
Benjamin?
Sure. Hey, I'm Ben from the East Village. When I ask my fellow New Yorkers why they don't bike, the response is almost always, I'm too scared. And sadly, they are right to be afraid. So when we can make the bike lanes in our community safer, that's a step towards convincing our friends. I bike north to Union Square on Lafayette and return south on Broadway almost every day. Hardening Lafayette and making it 2 ways instead of biking down Broadway will make a world of difference in scariness. I cannot support this change enough. Thank you.
Okay. Before Paul goes, I'm going to call the next 5 people. Austin Selstein, David Curtis, Terry Gamula, Zach Iskell, and Heather Peachy. Okay, Paul, go ahead. Okay. Yeah, Paul Dvorn. Oh, he's not here. Okay, we'll go. You didn't sign up. Well, then, it's DW. It's a little messy here. DWORIN. Okay. Somebody else signed up for you. You can go just right to the top.
Your statistics, like all statistics, can be manipulated however you want them. You're talking about the number of bike, pedestrian accidents. But what are the statistics about people who have to jump out of the way because an e-bike is barreling down? They don't stop. They're not going to stop if it's 2-way. What are your statistics about that? How many people get injured because they have to jump out of the way because bikes are barreling down?
Thank you. Austin?
I'll try and keep this brief. Hi, my name is Austin. I am an alumni of NYU. I'm an urban planner by trade, and 4th Avenue is the main route. And I bike down Broadway. I'm one of those people that bike down Broadway all the time, and it is very dangerous. I cannot tell you how many close calls I've had. And I've had a friend personally tell me, like you said, that they would rather go down the wrong way on a city bike on 4th Avenue than go down the right way because they have almost died, almost getting hit by a car swerving into the unprotected lane. And that two-way lane promotes visibility and predictability, because those bikes going down the wrong way right now, you don't expect them coming. You'd expect them coming if it's a two-way lane, and it's safer for everybody. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody can see everybody. One thing I would love to see would be maybe a boulder on 11th Street. I am a big believer that a boulder beats everything all the time. You just see all the cars that think they can get around it and they're crushed. I think a boulder would be a great neck down on 11th Street, but having those physical barriers that are short enough that everybody can see, that it's daylight, makes it
Thank
safer
you.
for kids. Thank you.
Okay. David Curtis.
I have some
Thank you. And who were they from? Oh, fantastic.
Hi, I'm David Curtis, a member of the Stewart House Board of Directors, which has voted unanimously to oppose 2 bike lanes on 4th Avenue. We are a 350 co-op building where 260 of us have already signed this petition opposing this disastrously unsafe plan. When we met recently with DOT officials on Zoom, we protested that even 1 bike lane, it is chaos out there, as reckless bikers routinely ignore traffic laws with zero enforcement. DOT said that enforcement was not their job, and it's, quote, just human nature for some people to abuse the law. Well, you know what else human nature is? It's when pedestrians assume that a one-way street for vehicles is also a one-way street for bikers. So we hear your ideals, but when your ideals collide with reality at 25 miles an hour, reality must win.
Okay, thank you very much. Terry Gamilla.
Thank you all so much. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, City-As-School. As a former commissioner, I will say it's much better being on this side of the mic than that side, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing. You know, I just want to say that for the bikers here, nobody here is trying to make the situation less safe for you. What we also care about is our safety and the safety of our children. The DOT plan, you talked about post office trucks, but you didn't talk about any of the other things that need to be mitigated and addressed in order to make it safe for children on this block. We have parents that come in from Staten Island, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, dropping their kids off in the morning. I guarantee you every parent here has seen a kid almost hit or hit. We've had kids go to the hospital before from this. Nobody wants to see that happen. You're also creating a situation up on 15th Street by diverting that traffic that is much less safe. There's no reason why you can't do that down Broadway and make the conversion down at Astor Place. It would be safer for everybody, especially for kids. I know that I don't have a whole lot of time.
Thank you.
Thank you. The last thing is on the Wegmans thing. You really need to also put that into your plan that you've got all those delivery workers on those e-bikes
Thank you,
speeding up
Zach.
and down that block. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Terry Gamilla? Nope. Oh, and Avicii. I'm like staring right at somebody I know. So Terry is not here, I guess. Okay, Heather, go ahead.
Hi, I live on Crosby Street in the back of my building, fronts onto Lafayette Street between Spring and Prince, where there is a two-way bike lane now. If we do the two-way bike lane and it expands, my design recommendation would be that it mirrors the dimensions of the one that's south of Prince Street, which we've taken measurements and it could. There's no way that one lane of vehicular traffic in a commercial thoroughfare is going to, work. It's going to so negatively impact the residential buildings around there. The gospel proposal that you're talking about, that won't even work with two vehicular lanes of traffic as it stands today. I've submitted videos and pictures that they can share with you so you can see. It's just a fantasy. I mean, we're not opposing the bike lane. We want everyone's children and everyone to be safe and be able to cycle, but you should really look at the dimensions and the measurements and try to keep the two lanes.
Thank you, Heather. We are going to go to the three people online just for equity and room perspective, and also because we have a connection to elevate them, and we might not have it later. So we have 3 people who've raised their hand: Laura Tenenbaum, Brandon Winston, and okay, well, now we're a lot of people raising their hand. We're only going to have 5. We'll have 5 go. So if you could call off their names, because I don't have
Barack first, then Laura, then Brandon Winston, then Charlie Todd, and Andrea Peterson.
Hey, everybody, Barack Friedman. I support this project. It's going to make it safer for pedestrians. It's going to be safer because a bidirectional bike lane is predictable. You know where the cyclists are going to be. My recommendation for the DOT is just to harden as much infrastructure as you can, protect the expanded sidewalk from illegal parking, protect the pedestrian islands. But in summary, it's a great project, great work, DOT, and I support it. Thank you.
100% agree. I do think this is needed in the area. As someone who does traverse this area by bike, I can confirm that it is extraordinarily dangerous going to and from this area. So I do support this. I would also point out that in areas in the city where double bike lanes have been implemented, historically what we've seen is that they've led to a reduction in the number of crashes. So I think overall the safety statistics back up this plan.
Hi, I live on Broome Street between Lafayette and Crosby, and I'm actually glad to see this made finally into a two-way. I had argued very strongly for a two-way bike lane the whole way when it was first proposed, and at that time the DOT rule was it ain't safe. And I'm glad you're considering it safe now. That said, a one-way, just a one lane isn't going to work. My concern, I don't ride a bike, I do ride the bus, and I depend a lot on the bus. I don't want it to be slowed down now that finally it's moving with congestion pricing, and that's going to happen. Can't you take out one of the parking lanes? I mean, really, I would much rather see a bus lane than any of that. I also have a couple of questions. How are you handling Jersey Street? What's happening with Petrosino Square Park? And what about can a fire truck actually get into an 11?
I just muted her. Okay, sorry, Laura. Charlie?
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm a Manhattan resident. I live in CB4, but I work frequently in CB2, and I'm constantly biking north-south in the middle of the island between Union Square and Brooklyn Bridge. And I'm just so delighted about this bike lane. I think it's a wonderful plan. It really fixes a missing gap. I have an 11-year-old who bikes with me on the weekends, and we're always going to the Brooklyn Bridge to go to places in Brooklyn. And to be able to use this corridor with him and to feel safe about it is really exciting to me. We should be building bike lanes so that we would let our children ride in them. And I'm just very enthusiastic about this. And I want to thank you so much for the presentation and all the thought that DOT has put into safety and the design. Thank you.
Andrea?
Hello?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Hey, hi, my name's Andrea Peterson, and I've lived, walked, and cycled on Lafayette Street for over 40 years, as have my 2 sons. And we would ride bicycles downtown and go to school on the bikes, and I worked as a teacher downtown. And I continue to ride bicycles up and down Lafayette Street. I love the two-way bike lane. I think it's fabulous that it's going to be extended. And I am, as a parent and former teacher, I am happy to work with parents at Grace Church School to help them make this a safer way for their students. And I think other people would be more than happy to help because it's a fabulous idea. Thank you, DOT.
We're going to go back into the room. I'm going to call up 5 people: Alexander Naritoff, Neil Foster, Ogjaj Obanani, Stanley Litlow, and Amanda Torres.
Alexander Naratov,
living for the past 45 years, living and working on the corner of Prince and Lafayette Street. We welcome the two-way bike lane, of course. The problem is that this proposal is very ill-considered in trying to convert Lafayette Street, which is a major regional artery, into a single-lane street. Lafayette is being used by the fire department, ambulances, private carting, as a bus. All the regional deliveries for groceries, everything happens on Lafayette Street. It is busy with 2 lanes 24/7. I've been observing it for 45 years. In addition to this, Gospel Nightclub, with 2 lanes open, Gospel Nightclub back traffic 4 nights a week between 11:30 and 5:30 in the morning, to the point where nobody south of 281 Lafayette actually could sleep because of the congestion that they cause. And that's with 2 traffic lanes. Can you imagine with 1 lane, there would be no traffic moving every night
Thank you.
for 4 nights? Thank you.
Okay, and I just want to note that the community board is not supporting redesigning any street around a particular one single business. And we're also, the gospel is being addressed as well in the SLA committee. And they're coming soon, right, Valerie? When are they? They're coming shortly. So in terms of how they handle that traffic issue, that will be determined as part of their licensing application. Okay, Stanley.
Yes, I'm Stanley Littau. I live at the Stewart House. I respect the DOT and the public servants, having worked in the mayor's office for Mayor John Lindsay, been deputy schools chancellor in the city of New York. I respect all of the public servants, but the people who are living in this community, large numbers of them, totally oppose this plan. 500 signatures on these petitions don't only demonstrate what those 500 people wanted, they demonstrate the fact that small children, senior citizens are terrified, absolutely terrified about this plan and do not want it to go forward. They think it is dangerous. They think it is something that is going to hurt and damage people for their lifetimes. Please don't go forward. Thank you.
Neil Foster, are you? Okay, AJ. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I dropped off a package with petitions, over 200 from Grace Church School opposing this plan. I dropped it off for CB2 and DOT. I'm a Grace trustee, I'm a parent, and the 4th Avenue stretch between 10th Street and East 12th Street, directly in front of the Grace Church School Elementary and Middle School, undermines the DOT's goal of pedestrian safety. It needs to be reconsidered. This is a high traffic school zone. The current proposal for a 2-way bike lane on 4th Avenue creates a dangerous contraflow conflict. Findings from the study in London by the University of Leeds confirms that while contraflow lanes are safe for vehicles, are safe for cyclists, they are terrible for pedestrians. There's a 50% increase in casualties.
Thank you.
So this is not good, and we need to reconsider this.
Okay.
We have proposed an alternative that connects through Broadway for that short period.
Thank
and
you.
We would like to see this implemented. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to go back online. We'll take 5 people online, and we can call them out. We'll just elevate the next 5.
Browner, Breitner, I just promoted you. Roger Skelton, Pete Davies, Ellen Fanning, and Stephen Green. Browen, you can speak. Bronwyn, you've been promoted.
Okay, there we go.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Thank you.
Yes?
We can.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, my name's Bronwyn Breitner. I'm a 26-year cyclist in Manhattan. I actually live in Brooklyn, but I cycle through this district in Manhattan all the time. I'm also a public member of the CB1 Transportation Committee in Brooklyn, in North Brooklyn. In 2021, I founded a community organization called Make McGinnis Safe. And that organization has been advocating for a safe street on McGinnis Boulevard after many deaths and injuries on that corridor. And I wanted to speak in support of this plan. For the McGinnis Boulevard plan, we had a lot of very similar concerns related to traffic, related to bikes in the, speeding through the bike lane and pedestrian injuries. And that plan has now been implemented, and the statistics are terrific in terms of safety, in terms of travel times for cars, in terms of more diverse users in the bike lane, many more bike lanes and bikers, and most importantly, no more bikers on the sidewalks at all. We know that e-bikes and scooters and cycling is only going to increase over time in New York City, and the only way to make that safe for New York is to design the infrastructure to support them, and that will create.
I did. Sorry. Ellen Fanning. Ellen, you can speak.
Hi, I live in the middle of Great Jones Street between Lafayette and Bowery, and we have a very active fire station on our block. I'm just really concerned for all the years I've lived there. Whenever there's a call, they're constantly honking because they're trying to get traffic to move out of their way. Then they have to go up to the light. They have to navigate the light to take the right on Lafayette Street. It seems if Lafayette goes to one car lane, this is going to be a massive, massive crippling effect on their ability to respond to emergencies. I don't see how in the world they're going to be able to get around this. Their trucks are large. They swing big to make the turn just out of their house and then again onto Lafayette Street. I think it's a disaster, and I don't hear any planning whatsoever to cover that.
Pete Davies.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Pete Davies. I live around the corner from the firehouse on Lafayette near Prince, and I think that the installation of a two-way bike lane on Lafayette is just wrong. I object to it. It's going to create a bottleneck of traffic heading north. Lafayette is the only northern passageway out of this part of Soho and Little Italy. And if you've been unfortunate enough to have to be in an emergency vehicle, under current circumstances, it's not good. When you limit that to one lane of traffic, it's going to be very, very bad. There has been no discussion by DOT of FDNY and their response to this plan. There is no enforcement by DOT of the electric bikes. And you would think that as those are expanding, the use is expanding, the DOT would understand that they have to.
Stephen Green.
Hi, evening, everyone. I'm a Grace parent. I share the sentiment that this is extremely dangerous proposal. I'm not understanding the reduction of traffic on Lafayette down to one lane. I don't understand the 10-foot extension of the sidewalk across from Grace Church, stealing from the flow would essentially be a traffic lane. Nothing from the DOT on enforcement that several other people have expressed. I think it looks really good on paper, but I really see very poor execution of this. And I think reconsideration is needs to be done. Thanks.
Thank you. Roger?
Yes, hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. So I'm just going to be basically repeating the objections to this because there's no discussion of the enforcement, I mean, of enforcement of bike operators. And these bikes, a lot of them electric bikes, they go very fast. The operators today, so many of them don't follow the rules. So creating safe places and lanes and that you're assuming they're going to obey the rules. They're not, unless you enforce them. And there's no discussion of enforcement. So I'm totally opposed to this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to the.
Okay, we're going to go back to the room. I'm going to call your name. Please come up. Neil Foster, Amanda Torres, Judith Pessin, my apologies, Charles Baker, and Naomi. I'm sorry, you're on. Oh, the next one, it says Lafayette. My apologies. Okay, I'm gonna call the name. Well, why don't we do the last two people that are online, and then we'll Meryl and Elizabeth Olaf. We're gonna elevate you, and while they're doing that, so Judith, you are on the next topic, and Charles Baker is on the next topic. Oh, we hear you. I'm just going through it. I'm putting their names aside because it says Lafayette on this sheet that I'm looking at. My apologies. Naomi is next topic. And Luke Camery, is this topic or the next topic? Okay, I'm going to have you line up. Andrew Matsuka, who's in here twice. Dan Miller is on Zoom. Nina Roberts. Okay, and Jen Garston. Did Jen already go? Okay. Let's line up. So the two people here, you can talk if you don't want to be promoted. First up is Mary. Are you ready? If not, we'll go to. Okay, Mary.
Calling Meryl. Is that?
Meryl,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Hi. I want to say, as somebody, I live in Brooklyn. I'm a member of Community Board 1 here in Brooklyn, but I do travel through Manhattan through this corridor, both for work, like from City Hall to Union Square pretty often, as well as for like errands and meeting friends. And as somebody who both bikes and walks this corridor often, I'm in full support of DOT's plan. I really appreciate the pedestrian improvements that they've added since the previous meeting. I think that that will be super helpful for everybody's safety. And I do want to say we do have some examples here in our own district of two-way bike lanes on one-way streets, such as Kent Avenue, which is one of the busiest bike lane and pedestrian corridors in the city. And safety has improved, and both bikes and pedestrian traffic has gone up since that was converted to a bike protected.
Hi, I'm Luke Camery. I grew up in this neighborhood. I actually went to a rival school of Grace Church,
All
BCS.
right. Speak a little closer to the microphone. So
And I bike across 9th and Lafayette every day because I still live in the neighborhood, as I have for the last 6 years, to get to and from work. Fully support the plan. In fact, I know a lot of people have talked about enforcement today. If there's anything I could see enforcement of on Lafayette, it would be double parking and cars blocking the existing bike lane or even blocking the sidewalk in some places. I think that's often what makes people do dangerous things like bike the wrong direction. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Andrew Matsuka. Okay, what's your name?
Nina.
Okay, Nina, go ahead.
Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for having this meeting. I'm Nina Roberts and I live on Lafayette and Prince. And I think that narrowing down Lafayette Street to one lane is absolutely ludicrous. I feel like I don't even have the vocabulary words to say how ridiculous and dangerous that is for the fire engine, for any kind of emergency vehicles. It's just, there's like no logic behind that to me. And I am a bike rider. I bike in the neighborhood every single day. I have for years. I have no problem with Broadway or Lafayette or whatever. It's very easy to bike in the neighborhood. So if transportation alternatives or DOT is hell-bent on making the bike lane two-way, I feel like one row of parked cars needs to be removed because Lafayette must have 2 lanes of traffic. I feel like it will not, it's just so dangerous to have 1 lane of traffic on Lafayette Street. And I am part of the whole gospel thing where there is endless honking. Like when there's backed up
5
traffic.
seconds.
There's honking that goes along with that. So that's from 2 a.m. until 5 a.m.
Thank you.
Consistent honking.
Awesome.
Did you?
So Jen Gordon is not here. Thomas Murray, if you are here. Samantha, it's like it's on Zoom, but I think she's already spoken. John Nobile, Stephanie.
You called Elizabeth before. I'm just been trying to unmute. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry. Say your name.
Elizabeth.
Did I just call you?
You called me before the last round of
Okay,
meetings.
Elizabeth, go ahead.
Thank
And
you. We've heard from a lot of people who traverse this area by bike in support of the proposal. If the concern is finding a thoroughfare that's safe to bike, it seems that the obvious solution is a protected southbound bike lane on a southbound street like Broadway, where people are saying they're scared to ride now. Before this meeting, it was already obvious that the residents of the neighborhood were not the priority, but when the main speaker tonight said that he planned to stick with the plan, whether he, quote, liked what he was hearing from the community or not, it really confirmed that attitude that we've been feeling. And I just want to lend another voice to the residents of the neighborhood and represent my elderly neighbors and young families who live in my building who already find it unsafe to walk in the neighborhood.
Step right up and say your name, please.
Hi, Thomas Murray. I live in the Stewart house too. I'm not really opposed, I bike and use City Bike, and so I recognize what's good about the plan, and I'm not opposed to it. I think though it needs it needs more safety considerations, particularly on our intersection, maybe something to prevent children from stepping into the bike lanes, some more green space. Have you considered maybe putting rumble strips or speed bumps across, in these certain dangerous areas to just force people to slow down? I think something like that would go a long way to allaying the fears of some of my neighbors and the safety concerns of the school.
Okay, thank you. Can you just address where there are some rumble strips in this plan? Can you just share where they are? You want to grab a microphone, please? Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to talk about that. So yes, actually in front of Grace Church, which I failed to mention, but you may have seen it in the diagram, there is actually a 2-foot offset of the bike lane from the curb, so that if a pedestrian were to step off the curb, unknowing that there is a 2-way bike lane, they are not stepping right out into bike traffic. They are at least stepping into a neutral zone before proceeding any further. For the rumble strips, there's rumble strips in both approaches on the north side of 11th Street and on the south side of 11th Street. So rumble strips closer to 10th Street, it's not something that we necessarily always do because it just has, because then it's like almost every single intersection would require, rumble strips, and that's certainly another discussion. But so I think right now our rumble strips are primarily focused on East 11th Street.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Samantha from Zoom, and she's a no-show, I think. John, you've already gone, right? Oh, I'm sorry. John, go ahead. My apologies.
John Noble. As an educator in the city, I value the protection of the children in the neighborhood that go to the school and walk around the city. I also appreciate that making the bike lane 2-way continuously reduces the chaos of biking in the city. But in regard to pedestrian safety, could you speak to how the bike lane encourages the pedestrian safety, like by creating like islands for the pedestrians to bridge the gap between sidewalk to sidewalk across the street? And then the other thing I was wondering about was on the southbound lane that is now going to be two-way. Can you tell us about the signaling on for bikes on that, like how they know to stop and all that stuff?
Right. So I'll take the last question first. So any signal that exists today facing south will also face north for all those southbound cyclists. So you'll basically have the same treatment that cyclists have going north as they will south, regardless if it's a split, leading pedestrian interval or split phase. In regards, remind me of the first question.
Oh, how the pedestrian crossing times are reduced for.
Right, so thank you. So the purpose of the pedestrian islands, and I think we've all experienced it in different places along here, because there are times when there is a platoon of traffic that goes by and then there's quiet. So that's when all the pedestrians start crossing against the light. But let's just say that there's vehicles approaching. Pedestrians can proceed across to the island when they've got a gap. If they're, technically they shouldn't be crossing the street unless they've got the walk signal, but we all know New Yorkers. But it gives them a place to stand and wait, to be able to then cross the street when they want to, with or without the white walking man. But it also shortens the crossing distance, because most of those intersections too will have turning traffic. So with the signals, and I believe, and I have to double check, but a lot of these intersections also have leading pedestrian intervals, which again means that the pedestrian is actually given advanced few seconds, typically 7 seconds, to be able to cross the street before the cars are released. And so that allows the pedestrians to be able to clear the intersection. So if you've got a painted pedestrian island, you've already got an advantage to be able to cross the street a little bit faster.
And how much time will the LPIs give?
The typical is around 7
seconds.
But it really depends on the intersections too.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. So that was John. Stephen Green went. Leslie Hendricks, Becky Atkins, Thomas Neff, Susan Bloom, and Ben Yee. Susan Bloom left. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Leslie. Or
I just want to add to the emergency vehicle and one lane issue, which is, in addition to that, between 10th and 14th Streets, you mentioned that you're putting in a delayed turn signal. Most of the traffic there turns. It's a huge corridor for emergency vehicles. So you're just backing everything up even more by not allowing anyone to turn. So you've got one turn, you've got one lane, you can't turn for X number of seconds longer. And you also have the problem with the postal trucks, who have never, ever obeyed any of the parking regulations and never will. So you have all those coming together and in one lane. I just think it's a disaster.
Thank you. Becky?
Hi, I'm Becky Adkins. I manage a 300-unit building on First and Bowery, and I live just north of Madison Square Park, and so this is my normal commute by bike every day down Broadway, up Lafayette. I'm very familiar with it. Definitely Broadway is a dangerous situation already, and a two-way bike lane on Lafayette would be very beneficial. So I support this, and I also support the rumble strips like close to the crossing where children are typically crossing, and reduction of landscaping and or pushing back parking from those, because there are times where people do come across without giving you any notice and you have to skid to a stop or try to avoid them if they step out in front of you. So I think that that's a really good plan.
Thank you. Thomas?
Hi, my name is Thomas Neff. I commute by bike on Lafayette. You can imagine my surprise the first time I took this route. I had this great protected lane heading northbound, and then I went to return home, and there was no option to go southbound. So I wanted to mention some stats. 2026 data from Transportation Alternatives shows that while men are willing to bike regardless of the setup, often women are 3 times more likely to ride when there is protected infrastructure. So if we want cycling on Lafayette to be accessible to everyone in New York City, not just some people, and we want our streets to be safer for everyone, we should complete this missing link. I had a few suggestions. Overall, I think the design is excellent, but 3 recommendations. One is to widen the bike lane to at least 11 feet along the entirety of the corridor to provide a safer buffer between cyclists heading in opposite directions. 2 is to reduce the width of travel lanes from 11 feet to 10 feet, which will reduce speeding. And 3 is to reduce the width of the parking lanes from 9 feet to 8 feet to make space for the wider bike lanes. I'm so excited for this project, so thank you to the DOT and to the board.
Thank you. I'm going to call more names. Susan Bloom and Ben Yee, are you here? No. Okay. Emily, no. How do you say her last name? Emily Jacoby, I'm sorry, it's the handwriting. Emily Jacoby, Cade Callan, David Siffert, Stephen Cruz, and Gil Traub. And I'm going to call the last 2 because they're here. Nancy Friedman, that's the last one. Okay. Okay, well, we'll just, and then after that, we'll just get people who want to speak. Still 1 minute. Okay. Emily?
Hi, I'm Emily Jacoby. I work for Transportation Alternatives. I also nanny a kid. We have to bike around from the West Side Highway over here. So I'm familiar with the bike infrastructure, and I'm also familiar with shuttling a 7-year-old around on streets in the city. So I empathize with all concerns shared tonight. I think especially just what I want to hit home on, it's been said before, but the rumble strips and just making sure the signage and infrastructure around schools and expanding the pedestrian leading intervals to make them a little bit longer than 7 seconds. 7 is good, but 10 saves lives, I think will make the crossing experience for pedestrians much calmer and easier. As far as the rumble strips go, those are a great intervention to slow cyclists down, but what I like about this plan, and I think what we want to see more of DOT being proactively doing, is thinking about the visibility for everyone. So the recommendation to remove that parking lane, I think, is a good one for those concerned about the emergency vehicle access, which hasn't been an issue on similar interventions, but to add that level of visibility for everyone really makes sense. The last piece I think that needs to be kind of locked in here, when we want calm streets for everyone, we want everyone going slow, there's really no need for anyone on a New York City street, no matter how they're getting around, to be going quickly, to be not following the rules of the road. But we have to design, I think, a community that's not here that should be engaged in this are the deliveristas who are working at Wegmans. I know it was said earlier, but
thank you. We are going to definitely have a meeting on that separate because
Thank
it's
you.
such an important issue.
Thank you.
You're out of time. Thank you. Okay. Cade?
Good evening. I'm Cade. I live right off of Astor Place and Lafayette Street, and I fully support this plan. I commute to downtown often, and going down Broadway is a complete nightmare for cyclists, and I very much support the double bike lane. We need to create a New York City that works for all of its residents, cyclists included. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for being brief. Okay. Okay, yes, I'm guessing.
Hi, I'm very much not David Siffert, but I am managing their state assembly campaign in this neighborhood.
We don't talk about campaigns.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I work for them, unrelated, and they asked me to speak for them tonight because they had some childcare obligations to attend to. Thank you to the board and the DOT for having this conversation. The statement they wanted me to read is that from my conversations with everyone in the community, everyone agrees the safety of both pedestrians and bicyclists is indispensable, and it is really not okay that there is no southbound protected bike lane in the neighboring blocks. However, the data seems to show that two-way bike lanes on one-way streets pose dangers to pedestrians, and there seems to be a viable alternative that could work for both pedestrians and bicyclists. It has been developed by parents at the Grace Church School. This alternative plan would change the current unprotected southbound bike lane on Broadway into a protected bike lane and connect it to the 4th Avenue northbound protected bike lane at Union Square and Astor Place.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
a minute. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Nancy Friedman. I too am a resident of Stewart House. With the initial bike lanes, you've already narrowed 4th Avenue up towards Union Square as it is, so narrowing it more is going to make it even worse. It's 4 or 5 ambulance deep at the hospital area. In addition, there's gridlock going westbound and eastbound because there's, with the traffic pattern change on 14th Street with all the cars, it's constant honking. And in addition, the bike lane now that's there is already two-way because no one pays attention and people are constantly traveling two-way anyway. And also the emergency vehicles. So, you know, you're gonna make it two-lane, it's already two-way. Nobody pays attention, nobody enforces this at all. People, you're not supposed to ride on the sidewalks, and the bike should be going with the flow of traffic. That's the way it should be. Thanks.
Thank you.
Stephen Cruz, is that you?
No, I'm Gil Trout.
Okay. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, you're right. Okay, and then if people who want to speak but haven't, please line up. Okay.
Good evening.
If on speaking on this topic, and if what you want to say has already been said, just be brief, please. Okay, Gil.
Ladies, gentlemen, DOT, Community Board 2. My name is Gil Traub. I've lived at 1 Bond Street for over 30 years and served as the building's president, which includes 17 residential units and 1 commercial unit. After reviewing the proposed alterations to Lafayette Street and its bike lanes, our building firmly and unanimously opposes the plan in its current design. Reducing Lafayette Street to a single lane will not alleviate traffic, it will displace it. It will result in increased congestion not only on Lafayette, but throughout the surrounding neighborhood. Streets such as Bleecker, Bond, and Great Jones will inevitably absorb overflow, placing an unfair, unnecessary burden already constrained to residential blocks. The proposal does not simplify nor shift traffic, it intensifies it where people live. We fully expect a significant increase in noise, pollution, and overall disruption to residents' quality of life, not to mention pedestrian safety as a result of reckless bikers that live in this community. We strongly urge Community Board 2 to reject this proposal and negative impacts on our neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay. State your name, please, just so we have it.
Sam. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm a parent of 3 children at Grace, and I also use our city streets in multiple ways as a driver, a pedestrian, and a cyclist. For a broader perspective, as somebody who regularly navigates these roadways, I've actually been hit in a New York City 2-way bike lane, which I don't think many people here have been. And by the way, that's not in any of your statistics because many people that get hit don't bother reporting it to anyone. They move on with life. So I oppose the 2-lane bike lane or the 2-way bike lane. Right now, even the single direction bike lane presents safety challenges. During drop off just last week, my children were about to open the car door. We come in from Brooklyn, and there was a bike traffic zone in a completely empty bike lane because they just didn't care. And we almost got hit in that regard.
Okay, 5 seconds.
And that reflects the fact that this assumption that bike lanes are predictable. They are not. People are not.
Thank you. Okay, next.
How are you? Greg Bander, president of the Stewart House Board. I'm also a Grace Church parent. I'm not going to go through the dangers of this. We've already hammered that home. What I will say is that we've had a separate conversation on this. We were told that there were a lot of similar instances of 2-way bike lanes where we had plenty of data. We asked for the data. We never saw the data. We've gotten very little data, and now you're saying there's not a lot of similar circumstances that are out there. I also find it extremely arrogant that you said we are not backing down from this. It's like you don't care what people have to say. And I think that's completely inappropriate. A lot of people have spoken. A lot of people have signed a petition. I think you need to put the arrogance to the side, step away, and let's have discussions about what we should do, not shove this down people's throats and try to pass it in less than a month. It's completely inappropriate.
Thank you. Next up.
Hi, good evening. Terry Gamule. I live at the Stewart House across the street, and as well, I represent thousands of cyclists who ride along 4th Avenue every day, and the tens of thousands of cyclists who ride the same path every month. I'm in strong support of all these transportation improvements. Broadway bike lane is terrifying. 2-way bike lanes are successfully used in other locations around the city, including the much busier Herald Square area, which no one has mentioned here. Change is hard. New York has implemented major transportation changes with pre-implementation hearings filled with doom and gloom by concerned citizens, understandably. Yet a year later, such changes are deemed huge successes. Times Square, congestion pricing are just one of many. Thank you to DOT and CB2, and I urge you to vote yes.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is David Itel. I'm also on the board of the Stewart House. I do not support this proposal. Again, reiterating what Greg said, there's not a lot of notice on this. You guys haven't given the data. You're talking about rumble strips at 11th Street, but if anyone's looked outside at 10th Street when school's out, it's just a bunch of kids there. Do you guys want to be in the New York Post when some poor kid gets hit and killed? That'll be on you if someone gets hit. Not a good look, not good optics. Also, on a personal note, my company is outside one of these two-way bike lanes. They hired someone who works 9 to 5, whose job is to stand like this every day to stop people from getting hit. I've nearly been hit there too, by people who do not listen to the traffic guard. So, I think this plan should include some part of enforcement.
Yeah.
Thank you
Where
guys
is
very
that
much.
bike lane?
That is by Google office, Pier 57.
Thank you. Oh, Hudson River Park. Okay. Next up.
Hi there, my name is Danny Calico. I also live in the Stewart House. I am adamantly opposed to this bike lane. Part of the problem is, admittedly, your bikers are nuts. I invite you to stand outside on 4th Avenue one morning from 8 to 9 and watch the bikers and watch the kids who come help from getting hit. And if you're going to make Lafayette Street one lane, what you need to do is a new statistic called people per lane per minute. You get a heck of a lot more people in a 2-lane, on a car or bus system than you do on a bicycle system. And they get a lot more people moving around than on bicycles. So you have a lot more people per lane per minute. And basically, you got to get the bikers into the lanes, and that no matter whether you have a single lane or a double lane, your bikers don't seem to get into the lanes.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, I would like to start off by saying that I agree with those of you with cycling experience who came to speak here today in support of this proposal. I am here to show support of my own regarding the DOT's proposal to make biking safer, along with transportation and alternative support of such plan. I am here to represent STUA, a student-run transit and urbanism association at Stuyvesant High School. I personally bike along the Hudson River Greenway and Chambers Street fairly often, and I sometimes take the Brooklyn Bridge whenever I'm using the city bike with friends. For a young person like myself, I often hesitate to travel on streets where I cannot fully guarantee my own safety while cycling. Some of my friends who are either attending college or are still in high school and have more experience cycling than I do have described their own concerns with the current bike lane along Lafayette Street as is. One describes it, in his words, as a kind of death trap between Houston and Prince Street because of the lack of a southbound bike lane. Lafayette Street should have a safe and comfortable two-way bike connection between Union Square and Brooklyn Bridge to allow people like myself to travel to more parts of the city without having to fear
Thank
other
you.
cyclists
Thank
who
you
may end
very
up biking
much.
opposite direction
Appreciate your
for their own
comments. Your
safety
time is
or
up.
motorists.
Next, please.
In spite of the concerns about pedestrian safety regarding this bike lane, I'd like to respectfully disagree.
Okay, you made some lovely points. I'm going to be strict with everyone. We are late. Okay, let's go.
I'm Andrew. I live in Stewart House. I love our board members, but I also love this plan. Yeah, basically I support it. And the plan isn't perfect, but I don't think we should let perfect be the enemy of the good. And also I think it's kind of sad that we have pedestrians and bikers fighting for scraps, and hopefully in future plans it will take more parking spaces away and both pedestrians and bikers can have more space. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, 2 more.
It seems that pedestrians are making all the concessions. Can't the bikers make some concessions too? That's it.
Hi, my name is Lutza. I am a mom of 3 here at Grace Church School. I fully oppose this. I think we don't oppose the idea of the infrastructure of having bike lanes. It's just that the combined with the frequent postal vehicle parking directly in front of the school will further constrict 4th Ave. As a federal agency, the Postal Service often parks wherever space is available, regardless of rules, which already limits curb access and forces families, like myself, on an almost daily basis to double park during drop-off. We are not opposed to the bike infrastructure as a general matter, but in this location, the current proposal may unintentionally reduce safety for the most vulnerable users, children. Instead, we urge the Department of Transportation to study safer alternatives such as hardening Broadway southbound lane, establishing a formal school drop-off zone, and create a designated parking zone to improve traffic flow and prioritize safety when it matters the most. Harden
Thank
Broadway
you. That's
in
your
a viable
time.
option. Thank you.
Okay, I have one question for the DOT folks. Is there, with the amenity zone, will there be a loading zone for drop-off at all? Where was the drop-off zone? Okay, yeah.
The amenity zone is essentially the buffer zone. It just happens to be wider, so it's the typical space. Anybody who knows that the buffer zone is typically 3 feet. Well, it's typical 3 feet wide. Oh, it's typically 3 feet wide, and so there is plenty of space to be able to open up your door, drop whatever.
No, but
off
is
you
there a
want.
drop-off zone in the plan for, like, you added drop-off zones for Mount Sinai and other places? Is there a drop-off zone at the hotel? Is there a
Right,
drop-off zone for the school?
No, right now there's just no parking as
Okay.
as it exists today.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next and last, because
I'm the last one. Victor Traeger, 636 Broadway. Hi, Janet. How are you? I oppose this because, I've been in the area since 1983. I've been active in the community. I try to help the community as much as I can. These streets are getting narrower and narrower. I know that the crowd on Lafayette Street has increased, tenfold since we got the restaurants, we got the food places, the Los Tacos, the bakery. We got a whole bunch of new establishments that really attract a huge crowd. And I know from Bleecker Street to Lafayette, it's very hard even to turn there with the crowds on a regular basis with the 2 lanes. With 1 lane, with the trucks and the UPS trucks, the FedEx trucks, the mail trucks, the fire trucks that come off of Great Jones is a real big concern. I park in that parking lot on the corner, and that's a 200-car lot. That's going to disappear in a couple of years.
5 seconds.
And there's going to be 200 extra cars trying to find a location. And I think that 1 lane is a disaster for
Thank
that
you.
main thoroughfare like that.
And we have one last person online, Ryan Naples, and then we are, and then I'm going to ask, Eddie Siegel had asked to speak earlier and I blew it. Do you want to speak during business session or no? Okay. Okay, fantastic. Ryan Naples, go ahead and speak.
Hi, yes. So I do think that this is more bike lanes are a good idea. I think there's, I'm a Grace Church parent. I think that there is something that needs to be done to kind of enhance the safety for the kids. I think, the rumble strips is like the first probably piece of this. I think there is a bike signal on 8th Street and 5th Avenue, which I do think is something that I've noticed bikes really do pay attention to. I think that needs to be considered because I do think this is kind of a long way from making people feel that, this is going to be an enhancement for these little kids in terms of safety, as opposed to putting them in more danger, even though it's clear that fewer cars on the road are going to lead to less fatalities. So yeah, I think the bike signal should hopefully be considered, and would love to work together on finding a solution that kind of serves everybody's purpose.
Will this have a bike signal or split phase signal at 11th Street?
No, it's just as traditional because there's no turning conflict, so it's just a regular green ball.
Got it. Okay.
Well, yeah, if there's a way to incorporate it, that would be great, I think.
Thank you.
Thought of having signage that says, slow children crossing, school zone.
We could look at a school zone, use our traditional, signage. It currently exists south of 10th Street, so that there is something in advance of that, but something closer on the actual block could be considered, certainly.
Yeah, because it definitely is a school zone. I mean, there are 2 entrances for kids, particularly the youngest ones on that street. Great, thank
Amy, we can do this during business session because we have a last topic. We are going to have our last topic, and then we will meet in business session to discuss the resolutions, discuss what we heard tonight. You are welcome, well, please stay for the last topic, and obviously you are welcome to stay during business session. You're just not able to participate unless you're a community board member. Is Zach here? I want to say thank you. And I hope, do we have Zach Owens here? Yes. All right. Hi, Zach. Okay. They're welcome to stay. Oh, actually, Kate, can you guys stay? Or somebody? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Kate. Okay. Just go grab him because I want to. I know. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we're here right now. That's what we're doing. Okay, come sit in the front row. All right, take your rock star seating. Okay, thank you everyone who came out and shared your thoughts. I know it's really complicated and there's a lot of moving pieces, and I want to thank everyone, and we are going to take into account all this. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. You're here to talk about 13th Street, which is part of the proposal for Lafayette. I'm so sorry. Which was previously just, can you, why don't you give a brief overview of, I'm sorry, Zach. Why don't you, Kate, why don't you give an overview of 13th Street? Why don't you guys just start asking your questions? Have you seen a presentation? Okay. Okay, we have, Mark, can you share the old slides that are on our website? Use the microphone, please.
So the proposal is for basically 13th Street west of Broadway to Varick. When we put in the protected bike lane, we only use delineators, which are those plastic white sticks. Okay, so with that, there has been, as you probably know, a lot of parking, illegal parking in the buffer and in the bike lane as a result, depending on the size of the vehicle. So what we're planning on doing is actually constructing basically sidewalk height medians that run down with gaps in between so that people can still access from. Yeah, it's basically it's 2 feet wide, and it'll vary because also any infrastructure like utility covers we have to keep. Also, we're looking in advance of any.
Can you go to the next slide, please?
Any refuge containers, that again is coming in with larger buildings. So we're working with sanitation to be able to find those locations where we need to be able to provide gaps. So, right, so this is basic, okay.
Okay, why don't you guys just line up? There's only 5 or 6 of you, and we'll hear your questions. Okay, thank you. We'll get the person on Zoom, but we'll get you guys in the room first. Okay, and ask your questions because we have.
Yeah, my
we can get them
questions
answers.
are actually probably. So I'm the block president. I took Gary Tomei's place. Actually, there are 2 of us who took his place on 13th between 6th and 7th. So. I mean, mine's easy. We have, so on our block, we don't really feel like we have enough information yet about the hardening, and we have 5 restaurants, a school, an active parking lot, a supermarket that takes deliveries, the city bikes, 1,000 residents, and I'm the president. I've got concerns from both, it's basically, we'd like to better understand the impact on daily operations, including school drop-offs and pickups, garbage collection, market and restaurant deliveries, and emergency access to Northwell. And then the bikers on the block totally into the idea of having east to west hardened lane, but also we just feel like our particular block needs a little bit of looking into more deeply. Is it possible to talk to you guys about what our concerns are?
We can certainly, we can certainly have a side conversation about your concerns. We have talked to the hospital about the proposal, and we worked that situation out with them because they have a side entrance.
I forgot we have
13th Street.
we have a bar and a gallery too.
So, I mean, obviously, one of the things that we're trying to do is prevent people from illegally parking. So, they won't be able to park on the bike lane side, but with the parking regulations on the north side of the street,
The issue mostly for the block is that, totally buy into that. The issue is that people park illegally constantly, and I could show you video from today on the right side, and then you get, so how do you manage that? I mean, today we had people in the bike lane, we had people driving, and we had people parked, and so it was just at a standstill.
Right, and so this is really to discourage or quicken, instead of allowing people to just park and either leave their vehicle or whatnot. This is just encouraging them to take care of their business and go.
But they're parking on the right side. I mean, if we could have a conversation with you, that would be great. I think it would alleviate.
Yeah, I think we don't want to have back and forth, but it sounds like what we're hearing is, well, this plan will eliminate the ability to park in the bike lane, but the question is, where will people load and unload?
Unload and unload, make deliveries to the 5 restaurants, park, wait for the parking, grocery store.
It's loading and unloading, and that doesn't seem to be, because you either are parked
and then
or you're
there's
driving.
kids. We also have a school on our block, so there's just that safety issue
Let's
too.
just hear his response. No back and forth. Thank you.
So I'll actually have to. I'm actually not the project manager for this. The project, I wasn't expecting this to be on the presentation. So we were talking about Lafayette 4th, and I do apologize. But we can connect you so that there can be further conversations about that, so she can alleviate or address.
Who is
any
the person
concerns
on that
you
one?
have. Her name is Claire Brennan.
She's not the one going out on maternity leave, is she?
No,
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 that's someone else. Okay, good. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
But
we want to make sure.
I will raise this matter with you between 6 and 7, that you're concerned about what's happening with all the deliveries that are occurring for the different institutions on the block.
Okay, thank you. Next.
I'm shorter.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Hey, can someone help? Why don't you just take it? Why don't you hand her a microphone? Thank you.
Oh, that's better. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Judy Pesson. I'm also on West 13th Street on the executive board of our block association. We are, as Naomi pointed out, between 6th and 7th, I think very different from 5th and 6th, and further east of 5th Avenue. Because we have so much activity, we're very residential. I recall, because I was very active during the L-train fiasco, if you will, when the bike lanes were first installed, we were told that the emergency vehicles would be able to use the bike lanes. And I'm not sure that this plan has enough room for, I don't see how that will work. So that's one of a major concern of mine. Ambulances, because we think that this might likely create more traffic in the single traffic lane. And if you can't drive into, which in fact, ambulances and fire trucks clearly have used the bike lane to get through, I think that's a major concern. I also have want to know what other narrow residential streets have hardened bike lanes. Is that something that's common? And we'd like to know ones that have it, so we can check out that.
So this is a new introduction to our toolbox of treatments, and as I mentioned earlier, it's addressing all the illegal parking that is occurring in the bike lane, in the buffer. We do, as the picture shows here, it's on 11th Street in Queens. just off of the Pulaski Bridge.
Is that a narrow residential street?
It's a two-way street. It's not
Fine.
narrow, but it's a heavily trafficked.
We're concerned about having
No,
a single
understood,
lane
understood.
with a very active, as Naomi said, 5 restaurants, a school, a supermarket, over 1,000 residents on the street that have workers come in, you know, plumbers and electricians and whatever else. Those, I believe, are the people that are parking on the north side of the street.
Okay.
There is no normal parking.
Okay, thank you. I think we have we have some clear issues here. Okay, and next and last.
Cherry Jones again. I just wanted to point out that we saw also our little street took the overflow traffic from the closing of 14th Street. So
Okay.
we're not just some little residential street. We are 14th Street going west.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions on 13th Street? Yes, jump up. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. My question is, you know, one street north is 14th. That is basically an empty freeway, while our one-lane street is packed with cars. So why don't you put basically everything on 14th?
I have no idea what's planned, but I do want to say that the city is starting a redesign of 14th Street from east to west, so stay tuned. I don't know what the city's planning, but yes, thank you. That's it. There were only two slides. Okay. We have your contact information because you signed up, so we will follow up and connect everyone, but we need to go to our last agenda item because Zach Owens has waited very patiently to present. Oh, okay, City and Country, sorry. Jamie Bendel, I'm going to allow you to talk, and if you could present while Zach is setting up. Thank you.
Hi there. I hope you can hear me. I just wanted to echo everything that has been shared about 13th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue and all of the young children that are on that block, and really wanting to see previous examples of hardened bike lanes on one-lane residential streets. There is absolutely so much emergency vehicular traffic, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Are you
Please
a
look into it. I'm a parent, yes. I'm a 15-year resident of the block. I am on our block association board as well, and I'm a parent of 2 young children, one of whom did attend City and Country on the block.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to turn it, we're going to quickly transition, to Zach, who will present some 7th Avenue South Streetscape framework, and this will be the first of many conversations. You can stand there. Do you want Thank you for waiting till the near end, but not quite end.
Why? The camera? Okay.
Committee members, sit wherever you want so you can see the slides. I have it on my screen.
All right. You ready? Yep. All right. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm Zach Owens, Executive Director of the West Village Business Improvement District, and I'm joined here today by Philip Dugdale. He is a principal of Sasaki and Associates in the urban design arm that's been working with us closely on the streetscape plan. So this is what the rest of our night's going to look like, and we are going to talk about why we need a framework. Next slide. Keep going. So it's first to just set the table of what is a framework exactly. And I think the important piece to note here is that it is a guidance document of how the community wants the avenue to evolve over time. As we have different priorities, there's a lot of challenges on 7th Avenue South. It's important to figure out what challenges we want to take on first, whether it's the curb chaos, the lack of trees and greenery. This document is to help us mobilize around those. It is not a final design or a final construction. That is to come later when we are to go into the capital plan. Next slide. And then this is just illustrates the range of different types of projects, from the quick tactical type interventions all the way to full capital build out. So 7th Avenue South is an important, it's actually why the bid got started in the first place. Previous slide, please. In 2022, the 7th Avenue South Alliance, a group of stakeholders and neighbors and residents, were not happy with the current state of conditions on 7th Avenue South. It is a prime corridor that bifurcates the neighborhood east and west, has long crosswalks, it's unattractive, and so they got together to figure out what are the different things that they could do. And to sustain that work is why the Improvement District was formed in 2022. So the study area we were looking closely at is essentially the entirety of the avenue, starting at Greenwich Avenue, all the way to Clarkson, Carmine Street on the south end. Next slide. You guys are familiar, it's the central historic node of Stonewall, as well as other cultural institutions. Next slide. And we got our legacy businesses that play an important role in the fabric of our community. Next slide, please. You guys are familiar with the history, the birth, cut and cover, creation of the one train beneath the avenue. Next slide. And that caused issues with, at least from the aesthetic perspective, being able to plant greenery and having trees, but it's more importantly the safety issues that it caused. So the lack of bump outs and creating these long crosswalks, the angle that the street cuts through allows cars turning onto the avenue to be able to make turns quickly, and it creates safety problems. And the last piece, the pedestrian safety. At one point, the avenue was one of the most dangerous intersections in the city, but with the advocacy of the community board and others, and we go to the next slide, Mark. With the advocacy of the community board, there were some light touch interventions that had a real sizable improvement. So going into the engagement process, next slide, please. This is the community board. So back in 2015, and the local electeds wrote a letter and got some, a lot of attention on some of the historic safety challenges, and DOT brought forth several proposals that did make a difference. And this proposal, this framework, is going to be building on that momentum. Next slide. This is just an illustration of our outreach. So it's been 2 years in process. We had a streetscape committee made up of business owners and residents that provided the daily feedback, but we also did do a business and resident survey, as well as met with several city officials and came to the community board at 2 different occasions to get their feedback as well. Next slide. And this is just some of our open houses that we did. Was Halloween piece, as well as at Pride and site walks and others. So we really went out in the community and tried to get that feedback directly from our neighbors. Next slide. That feedback we then ended up collecting, and there was some key patterns and themes that emerged. The top issue was the chronic vacancies on 7th Avenue. It creates safety perception issues. It's unappealing to walk down. People always try to go east-west. They'll never go north-south on the avenue, as well as the lack of greenery and the waste. So the illegal dumping and other chronic conditions. And that emerged into 3 priorities: the greening, pedestrian safety, and mobility. Next slide. You can continue on. And I will hand it over to Philip to talk about the design.
Good evening, everybody. Philip Dugdale. I'm a landscape architect and principal at a firm called Sasaki Associates. It's been really interesting hearing the community's input on the previous proposals, because I think that is something that is very critical for any kind of vision plan and framework such as this. There is always conflict between vehicles, pedestrians, and cyclists, and kind of curb management that we're really trying to adhere to. Obviously, with this being such a beautiful part of the neighborhood, we also want to improve the overall visual and aesthetic and quality of the space, and really think about how we can create a vision that ties into, nationally and internationally important areas like the Stonewall National Monument and Stonewall itself, as well as improving the streetscape for the future and for our communities. So what we came from, all of that information, that research that we showed earlier, we came up with kind of like these 5 defining guiding principles, really activating the gateways at both the north and south end, and also the east and west connections. As Zach had mentioned, we have a really unique kind of geometry in New York because of the way that 7th Avenue South cuts across the grid. We really want to optimize movement. Today, when you're walking down 7th Avenue South, you meander between, you know, the light poles, the frontage zones, the cafe seating, the trees, and there isn't really a singular defined pedestrian route that allows for, you know, flexible and movement and multiple widths of people, like multiple groups of people. We have a really unique kind of moments along the 7th Avenue South with kind of the little pocket plazas, those little green triangles. So we really want to strengthen those. And then really create a connection to the National Monument itself, and really create a space that people can be celebrated and come to life, as well as ensuring that there are quieter, more green spaces for respite and for the community and the residents that live along the street. Next slide. So as we did the research, we also started to dive into, this is a long stretch, you know, as Zach had mentioned. So what is there kind of any defining qualities of each of these zones? So we came up with 4 critical character areas. The first one, the North Gateway, that's really how you kind of enter the village and transition from the AIDS Memorial to the north, and really want to create that kind of linear space. Then we get to Christopher Park area. That's where you have these offshoots, these pocket plazas. The Christopher Park itself, kind of, it's that busy hub. We kind of called it the chaotic center ourselves, just trying to really rationalize how that east-west pedestrian connections work. At Bleecker Street, that's where you get a lot of activity because that's such an active retail corridor. And then on the South Gateway, how do we extend that experience to the Hudson, down south, to kind of that Hudson bid area, Hudson Square bid, and create a really rich streetscape. Next slide. So you've kind of seen all those different kind of dimensions and things in those previous slides. What we wanted to do here is really think about, again, that idea of rationalizing these different zones from the frontage of the retail, the cafe, or the edges of the streetscape to a clear pedestrian zone. Kind of really thinking about how we mitigate the bike lane, and then also kind of create these flex zones. So what you'll see here on the left is the before image. You can kind of see you will have parking, 3 drive lanes, another lane of parking, and then a bike lane, all asphalt. So that's uninterrupted asphalt, which creates a very wide crossing distance for pedestrians at each of the intersections. What we wanted to do was to create those curb bump outs at each of the each of the streets, and create this idea of these flexible bump outs that could be used for furniture, could be used for trash, could be used for trees. We really wanted to prioritize pedestrian movement moving north-south. So in this framework, what we're suggesting is these raised crosswalks, so that you are at the level of the streetscape, where on each of the eastern and western streets. And what this also does, it slows down vehicles turning into those side roads. And then also additionally on that, we've talked about a lot of cycling safety. So what we wanted to do was create this meandering bike lane that at the intersections where there are side streets, there is a sense of slowing cyclists down, and then also that change in grade and rumble strips will also slow those cyclists down even further. So what this is really doing is keeping that clear linear zone, and then all the different spaces around it kind of play off that. One thing to also mention in this framework plan is that the subway is below, so there are a lot of subway vents that we have to accommodate. And that clear zone will transition those areas so there is always at least a minimum of 8 feet wide for pedestrians. That will then, so you're not always walking on the grades. So that's continuous down the full length. So next slide. So what does that mean in terms of a streetscape? So here you'll see this is Bleecker Street connecting, the meatpacking district and Soho. This idea of a frontage zone. I apologize, that first clear should say 8 feet and not 4 feet, but there'll be a minimum of 8 feet of sidewalk. We're suggesting that there is a bike lane, a protected bike lane that is for the predominantly separated from the pedestrian zone. So there is a curb and then an additional flex zone on the opposite side before you get into the drive lanes. This allows us to create space to meander that bike lane in and out so that when you get to intersections, the cyclist has to slow down before they interface with pedestrians moving east-west. And that will allow that kind of, interface between pedestrians, cyclists, and cars to be a little bit more easy to understand and more time to kind of cross. This is one of the most complicated intersections of all of them because of the different angles of the streets. We're narrowing those turn roads to improve the amount of sidewalk to, again, reduce the width of the crossing lanes across 7th Avenue South itself. Next slide. This is going down towards Hudson Square. Again, we have some existing trees that we really want to maintain because I think where we have trees, we want to kind of maintain their maturity. So this is where we have the frontage zone, and then again, I don't know why both of them say 4 feet, but they should say 8. And then we have the trees in the middle. The bike lane is moving south, and then we have on either side of the drive lanes kind of parking drop off. All associated within that kind of curb bump out. Next slide. And so what we really studied along the full stretch is, as I mentioned, every single intersection is unique. I think it all has unique kind of intersections and angles, and we really wanted to try to, where we can, pull the curb out as much as possible. So the curb bump outs act as zones where you can place stormwater management, trees, furniture, that kind of thing. But here are 3 intersections that we studied in great detail and tried to create that sense of narrowing that crossing between of the tarmac itself. Within a few key areas, including around Christopher Park and then at Bleecker Street and Barrow Street, we're suggesting kind of a change in material to really allow that pedestrian-focused prioritization across 7th Avenue South, and really trying to think about how this connects through all the way down to Carmine and Clarkson Street. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, one of the great joys of walking down the streetscape is, coming across all the different squares and spaces that you have along the stretch. There are some really unique moments, and the community takes charge of those and really plants them, flower pots, that kind of thing, and maintains them. So we really want the framework to really strengthen that overall approach, and we've highlighted some of these key areas and these key squares that really allow us to celebrate those moments. So again, with that idea of keeping the curbs where they are, but a changing materiality within the roadway, adding more tree planting within each of those squares, really creates a moment to celebrate. Next slide. So that when you get to these moments, you can kind of use them and kind of see, the first topic today was that idea of open streets, and create this idea of that when there is an open street, there is a sense of pedestrian movement throughout that space, and creating movable planters to allow those open streets to happen within the city. You'll see here, we're maintaining kind of the drive lanes along the full stretch, and allowing that flex zone also allows for, bus stops and trash management along that stretch, and trying to, as we kind of mentioned early on, really create more zones for more trees to create like a really green expression where we can along 7th Avenue South, to kind of create that consistent tree canopy. Next slide. So that's when I'll pass it back to Zach for next steps.
Yeah, so just wrapping up here, and we move on to the next slide. It's the what comes after this, and this is a continuous process of getting community feedback, but we will be releasing this plan soon publicly, so we would very much welcome any comments and feedback that you guys have on this initially, and we will eventually be taking it to landmarks as necessary and full design. But again, this is thinking about what the framework is. It is to be able to set the resources in place so that we can also advocate for the capital funding, similar to what Broadway and 14th Street are doing now. So that being said, we'd be happy to take any questions.
And where would the capital funding come from? Would this be a DOT funded project eventually?
Eventually, potentially.
Okay. So
But
I'm
whether it's, I think there's a lot of different capital buckets you can pursue.
okay, fantastic. We have a couple, do we have any committee questions? We do have 2 questions from the public, so I think this is very preliminary.
So I guess we can just use this code to send you questions.
Yes,
My
absolutely.
offhand, it's just lots of times I cross 7th Avenue, especially at 10th Street, and it's huge. Did you consider doing 2 lanes and a bus lane? Like, why maintain 3 lanes of traffic?
Yeah, we did. I think we initially, that's exactly how we had approached it, but what this plan does is it allows the flexibility, so over time, especially with congestion charging reduction in the amount of kind of traffic within the area, to be able to evolve that over time. What we wanted this framework to be was flexible. So at the moment, I think it's kind of keeping it as the 3-lane drive lanes, but over time that could be implemented and introduced.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't look closely enough. Are you narrowing the lanes at all, the width of the lanes? Because that slows traffic.
No, the lanes are all 11 feet wide. What we're doing is those it's the curb bump outs that really dramatically reduces that sense of distance between the pedestrian sidewalks.
So online, we have Perry Vandermeer. Wait, I'm sorry. Do we have any other committee questions or CB2 questions? Okay, because Perry, can someone help me? He's unmuted. Okay.
Hear me? Is that?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This is just an extraordinary presentation. I'd love to remind the committee that before the Business Improvement District was requested by the DOT, this was a passionate, school-driven safety initiative put on the lap of the DOT. There are an extraordinary number of after-school programs. We had over 900 signatures from local schools, and that the DOT really has to step up. There's no question that 14, 15 years ago, they were given extreme detailed instructions as to safety improvements. What the bid has done is just extraordinary, but the DOT needs to bring its plan.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to acknowledge that Perry and other leaders in the community have been pushing on some of these changes for a very long time. Richard Malloy?
Yeah, I'm the director of facilities at City and Country School on 13th Street. We are in 144 through 152 now, west on the south side of 13th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue. And I just want to raise some concerns about school drop-off that the head of school has, and accepting deliveries, and also child safety with a hardened bike lane. Do we have concerns about bicyclists driving too fast and endangering children? So I did take a snapshot of the QR code, and I will make sure that our concerns are put forward. But just has that been thought about? Has that been discussed?
This was actually the last topic, but we will make sure that we get the slide. You signed up, so we should have your email address, and we'll make sure you get the slides. And there were a lot of people who joined before you who raised similar concerns. So thank you for highlighting that as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much.
I just want to ask, so you said that we would love to share this QR code with this CB2 mailing list, but we also would need the report. So when will this be fully released so we can share the whole thing?
Imminently.
Okay.
Yep.
Like this week or so?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Because obviously people need to see the report to have the feedback.
We have a report and kind of an executive summary as well, and there'll be all the analysis and everything behind that before getting into the framework. So that's all kind of finalized, so that's available.
Well, this looks exciting, so thank you. Do we have any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Stephen Cruz. I am a resident of the area. Trees are great. Pedestrian lanes widen is fantastic. I think it's great. But you're not considering the one factor that I'm sure anyone in the area will agree with me, the Holland Tunnel traffic. You're completely forgetting that. You're putting in 2 lanes and a bus lane. You know, the bus doesn't even stop at Clarkson Street, doesn't really stop again until after Canal Street because that tunnel traffic gets out of control. So you're talking about 2 lanes of traffic. Where will the downtown traffic go? So you're talking about maybe now backing up that traffic to the good old people of 10th Street, 12th Street, 13th Street. If not, you're backing up that traffic. When you get to that intersection of Clarkson Street, it is a madhouse, absolute madhouse to get through there. To completely avoid that, the native New Yorker will use his instincts in a second and say, forget that. It's insane. So your proposal for trees are fantastic, but battling, especially on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday afternoon, Holland Tunnel traffic is out of this world. Thank you.
Can we go back to this section, one of the sections?
Yeah, go to which slide do you want to go to?
Go back a few slides just to one of the sections. Just to answer that, we're actually so keep going back to the framework one with the red tones. Keep going back. Yep. So again, we're not actually reducing. It looks like we're reducing travel lanes. We're not reducing the travel lanes. There are 3 drive lanes. It's just that the far left one, which is as you're traveling south, is the one on the right, will be used for both drive and bus lanes. And then the drop-off zones will be used for bus stops, for loading and parking. So this is just a typical section. Through that, to talk about the engagement process, we had initially proposed 2 drive lanes and a bus lane, but listening to the community and responding, we had decided that it was better to keep the 3 drive lanes as is, and then use the curb bump outs at the pedestrian crossings only. So that should not adversely affect the Holland Tunnel traffic as to today.
Yeah, we're not going to have back and forth, but I do want to share. No, I think you should, but also I want to point out that this group only goes to Clarkson Street. So it's the Hudson Square. So they actually don't. I've seen it. I've definitely seen it. So I know. When my kids were little, they wanted to go to Little League and they were tired. Like, can we take a taxi? I'm like, no, we will never get there. Start walking. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. But I think we need to get this out so we can get as much feedback as possible. And you might also want to consider other ways to reach out to the community. I think you probably should do this because obviously we didn't do it. And once you have the presentation, we should have some public meeting where you get to present again and not at 9:30 at night. So.
Agreed. Agreed. Sitting on that call, 6:30. I'm surprised that this is the first time I'm here.
Yeah, we'll fix it with the post and then I'll start.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming. We are going to go into business session very quickly. Everyone else is welcome to stay. The first thing we're going to discuss is Clarkson Street. I thought the presentation was lovely. I think we want to make sure that the trash collection is taken care of. Do people have any concerns about Clarkson Street? Okay. Yes, Amy? Use a microphone, please. Right in front of you.
I think it's a great idea. I think they need some kind of dividers, though, between the bike lane and where the kids are playing. I don't think you can just assume they had also talked about some kids with disabilities and things like that.
Well, they've already had, it's been.
They have the bollards or
No,
whatever.
no, no. They've,
thing?
this is the same open street they've had for several years. They're only adding the street seat and a nicer gate.
Okay, so they're comfortable with no.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay. All in favor of the plan as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Open streets, were there any concerns? I know Katie Bordenaro had concerns about the buses, but it sounds for Christopher Street, but it sounds like let's just reroute it when the street is open. So that's the simple answer is how do the buses get there? All in favor of the open streets? Say okay. All in favor of share, I'm going to jump to number 4. All in favor of making sure we share this widely and get comment. I don't think we need a resolution on the last thing, on the last agenda item. Okay, so we heard a lot of stuff on the DOT changes, and I'm just going to go with some of the easy stuff first. I'm going to start with 13th Street since we did that last. I think it would be helpful I think what we heard is that people need to have space for deliveries and pickups. And so the question is, should the bike lane be wider? Should the, it's really about parking. Like what are proposals for parking regs to make sure, we've seen this problem on wider streets where cars park in the bike lane. We see it on 3rd Street. We've talked to DOT about this many times. So I guess really we just need to hear back from you about the best way for all of these businesses, schools, and so forth to get deliveries and pickups and go about their day. So would that be something you'd be able to get back to us on?
I didn't care to getting back to the phone. I did my part.
If you can mute everyone online, please. Okay. Yes, thank you.
My name is Stephen Cruz. I'm a resident.
Nope, you gotta use the microphone, please.
Yeah, they are.
Up, they're working now. All right. Let's go, Stephen.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Stephen Cruz. I am a resident of Greenwich Village / Soho, and I am a struggler with alternate side of the street parking being taken away from the residents in the area, in the neighborhood, starting with the outdoor dining, the trash bins in the street, as well as the implementation of the city bike docking stations on Thompson Street between West 3rd and the Park, 12 or so spots taken away. Thompson Street between Bleecker and Houston Street, 9 or so spots taken away. Little 6th Avenue from Broome Street to Dominic Street, 9 or so parking spots taken away. Just recently now with the taking away, and you spoke about it earlier, the metered parking being put on 6th Avenue from Spring Street.
Can you get to your ask?
Huh?
What's your request?
So my request is when is the DOT going to give us back some of this alternate side of the street parking? Because we're talking now up to like almost 40 or 50 parking spots being taken away from an area that's very high in tourist traffic. So we as residents who own cars are starting to see the struggle of alternate side of the street parking just being taken away in the area. So my proposal to the community board and the DOT would be Sullivan Street, for instance. Sullivan Street, my block where I live, from Broome Street all the way up to Washington Square Park, is only one side of the street, alternate side. The other side is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. for some strange reason. And I get it, there are certain businesses there that need truck loading and unloading, but we can sacrifice for them and give us back some alternate side of the street parking, because again, the proposal of the metered parking on 6th Avenue continues the fight of taking it away. Bike
Okay,
lanes.
thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
bike lanes taking it away. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, our mics are working. Honestly, I hate to say this, committee, but I think we're going to need to have a business session at another time. Can we maybe pick a date or a tentative date? Because there's no way we can address all of this. Okay. My plans for the 5th were just canceled. You know what? We might have to do this online. I think we're going to have to do this online. Yeah.
DOT really. Hi, DOT. You know, this may have been answered, but with this input about the concern with the one traffic lane, what kind of studies have been done in terms of congestion and traffic and so on, which would give the reason for why one lane is sufficient? Are there all kinds of statistics on that kind of thing that we can include, you know, in our deliberation?
Sure. So it was included in the first time it came presented. There's a full analysis. It's only one lane being proposed from Prince to 9th, and then from 9th to 13th, it's 2, and then 13th to 14th, it's 1. But there's turn lanes at every block, and the idea is to separate the turning vehicles from the through vehicles. And right. So there was a full traffic study that was done. Correct.
Yeah, and they proved that one lane in those areas is accommodate, right?
Yes.
That's a microphone. What is study? Can you hear me? Oh yeah, I can hear me. What studies? What did the studies say in terms of accommodating the traffic?
So
Period. Whether it's one lane or two lanes, in the one lane with the configuration that you are proposing. Did you have that originally? I may have missed it.
It was in the initial presentation from a month ago. The traffic, the only place it gets sticky is between 13th and 14th.
I think there's a disconnect here. I'm just going to jump in. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what Shirley is asking, are there any studies indicating precedents of comparable situations where there is this much activity on a major avenue and that the traffic gets reduced to one lane. Is that what you're asking? Oh, sorry.
I mean, if you want to see major lane reduction, it's right in Midtown, super sidewalks, 8th and 9th Avenue in the 30s. Like that is as dense as it gets. And now there's only 2 lanes, a turn lane and a through lane.
That's right. There's a lot of precedent for, reducing travel lanes, 6th Ave, 9th Ave, 8th Ave.
8th and 9th Avenue
10th Ave.
from 34th to 54th is just one through lane and a turn lane now.
So to be clear, the next meeting has to be in person. It can't be, or a hybrid meeting. It can't be over email or on
No,
Zoom
I said
only.
by email to schedule a
Okay.
date. The
Okay.
email would be to schedule a date. It would not be an email to, no.
Sorry.
Kate, go ahead.
Sorry. Amy asked that, we go back and look at pedestrian improvements in front of Stewart houses. Just wanted to acknowledge that. That's something, all the feedback we heard tonight, we'll be bringing that back as well. We would have to regroup. But yeah, we'll be in touch. We'll stay in touch. That's all.
I think at this, I meant we could, we need to sort of sit down and get a list of all the things. So I guess the last question I have for DOT is, we received something today that said we also had 10 days to approve. Mark, what was the thing that we had 10 days to approve on? It was no, it wasn't, it was another thing. Yeah.
So you sent me a notice today under code 19-101.2, and if you look at subdivision D, it says that I have 10 business days in which, or we have 10 business days in which to transmit our comments and or recommendations. And our next full board meeting is May 21st, is it? I think May 21st, which obviously is more than 10 business days away from today. So is it DOT's intention for this board not to be able to render comments and recommendations with respect to the plan that you just proposed?
No, that's not our intention. And Mark, I apologize. I'll have to go back and reread what we sent you because that may have been an error. What we're trying to do as required by city law is to provide the community. We're trying to better document our outreach to the community boards, and we come to all of you as our process to present and take feedback so that we can adjust and improve our proposals. So what I sent to you was just documenting that we are notifying the community board that we have this proposal. The community board has the ability to ask for a presentation and to opine on it. This is our second presentation to you all, so I don't think we're in danger of you missing out on the opportunity to ask for a presentation and to share your feedback. We will wait for the resolution we receive from you. We'll stay in touch about the requests and feedback we're receiving. I will have to go back to the verbiage that we sent over, may have been incorrect.
Thank you for that, because since we have that notice in writing, we would need a clarification in writing to countermand it. Otherwise, the only other option I can recommend to the board is that we have 7 business days in which to request a presentation, and notwithstanding the fact that you've made 2, we could ask for yet another one, and then you have 30 days in which to produce that, which would give us enough time to get through our full board. But if there's a simpler solution, let's use that.
Understood. Thanks.
Thank you.
Carter, and why don't you come up and get a microphone? And yes. Yeah, we have like 1 minute, so, and everybody here, still here, we're gonna need to help Mark.
So I have a question for DOT. I went last Saturday and went to Court Street. And I drove down in a car with somebody else, a friend on Court Street. And the biggest problem was not what I thought would be. That's all the vehicles parking. And on Lafayette Street, you're
Carter, a little closer to your mouth,
you're
please.
increasing the turnover in the parking on both sides. And I overlooked Lafayette Street. And it was really interesting to me seeing how much that stopped the traffic. And it is not what I would have anticipated. And that, in our area in NoHo is a huge destination for people who come in on the weekends and shop. And that becomes a huge issue because then nothing moves. So much traffic funnels into Lafayette as they go north, especially on Bleecker Street in particular, and to some extent on Great Jones, that there's no way to really turn as it is if it were narrowed down to one lane, because there are a lot of backups. But if you throw in the much higher turnover in parking, it creates a whole nightmare situation of just not the steady flow
What are you
of it
proposing?
through traffic. No, my question is, how would you take that into account? Because the through lane isn't a through lane anymore. If it's actually a lot of unpredictable stopping from that. I'm just wondering how that's taken into account on a major northbound street for the city, you know, which is a little different than some of the other areas, because there's not many other ways to go north here.
Sure, so the concern is friction from people pulling in and pulling out of parking spaces? Fair. So, I mean, honestly, it's factored into the models. It's not something that, you know, there's a double parking vehicle there now, and people are merging behind it, right? So, like, similar merging's happening. Understandably, if somebody's pulling out, you know, you have to pause, but we think that movement is, you know, seconds. So the other improvement is at the intersections there are turn lanes, right? So it's not just one consistently for half the block. It's really two. There's space to move over. Parking drops on one side. So, you know, you only have parking on both sides for about half the block.
I guess I just went and experienced it, and that's not how it worked.
Okay, we are out of time, and I want to propose, can you, this committee could, Kate, would your team be free on May 11th? The Cannabis Committee says they won't meet then, so we could have that night. That's a Monday. You want to have to check with me tomorrow? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But we could get some of your colleagues. All right. Okay. I will circle back by email to schedule a meeting. Would Monday the 11th work for a quick? Okay. Motion to adjourn? Okay. Let's help Mark with whatever he needs. Thank you everyone for your patience and your time.